Hello and welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Kane. Of course, I thank you for tuning on in today. Hopefully you're having a very, very Merry Christmas Eve, as this is a nice little special show. We'll get in, we'll get out, we'll get you on to your Christmas Eve dinners, but we got a little bit more Seahawks DreamWorks to put into play here. I had you before the start of the season. I said, I want you dreaming big, Seahawks fans. Yes, I've been a very, hey, we got to be patient with this. Hey, trust the process kind of guy, but don't be shocked if this thing turns on its ear a little faster than people are prognosticating. Don't be surprised if this team is a lot better than you think. And here were some of the keys that I provided before the season as to how this team could become a contender this year. Not merely good, not merely just backward sliding their way into the playoffs, but absolutely positively a contending team. And many of those things have happened, and we went into line item detail on it. We always go deep in the offseason in that way. And it was even down to like something like needing to make a big trade deadline deal, understanding that because you had eaten so much dead money on the offense, you were going to need to do that. And the Seahawks did indeed, of course, with Rashid Shaheed, and almost more than that, took that swing, acknowledging that that was going to be a necessity. So we've been pretty close collectively on this and how we've looked at this. And likewise now, as we see our Seattle Seahawks here, 2 games away from potentially locking down the number 1 seed. But beyond that, playoffs already in tow. We're in. It's not a question of that anymore. But how good are we? Are we a contending team? What would it take for the Seattle Seahawks to go in a year like this and surprise the world and go get that Super Bowl? Well, I've given this a lot of thought. I've gone through the items of this team. I've thought a lot about what we've seen from this team this year. And I think that the thing that we have to accept about this team is that we love them, and it is truly a team with all the potential in the world. But it's also a team we're going to be realistic in how we break down this stuff to say, for my belief system, this is the stuff that exactly has to happen if we're going to talk about being a Super Bowl winner or just getting even to the Super Bowl itself. These exact things, detail by detail, item by item, just going into every distinct one as we kind of can. And I'm going to try to build my case to you guys, and you let me know. Have I let something out, or is there something else maybe that there should have been in addition to some of these items that I'm picking from? Let's go to the first thing. And we're going to do some breakdowns on this where I really want to unpackage this more from understanding this team and the DNA of what they have. They have championship DNA, but there's also one little subtle part of this that I think is going to be the big, main, huge key to this. And you're going to see that, I think, as an overarching theme through these about 10, 11 items I've got brought up here. First, run game goes boom. We have a run game that has found itself in various places throughout the course of this season. Kenneth Walker, 190 carries, almost 900 yards, 4.6 yard per carry average. Zach Charbonnet, 149 carries, so about 51 carries less, only averaging 3.7 yards per carry, albeit again, as well as being a short yardage back. So that's going to adjust some of the yard per carry average on that. So the backs have not been bad. They've been very good. I think that the thing that jumps out to me throughout the course of the season, and this is going to be the main spine of the theme that I'm talking about today to be in consideration as we do dream big for the Super Bowl, is that it is one that seems to be less about what it was sort of sold to us as a tagline as a rushing offense coming in this outside zone. Less of what we've seen from Shanahan and from what we've seen from McVay running these kind of West Coast stylings of offense, especially some of the outside zone stuff, is that we're not getting as much of the play in and play out positive play from the run game. And what I mean by that is not a negative, not a no gain, not a 1 yard gain, but you're getting at least that 3 yards. You're getting into the positions to where you can drive down into finding yourself, hey, we can make this 3rd down. Hey, that defense can't blitz on this because it's not 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. They blitz, we throw it out to the hot route read. It's going to be a 1st down. So this is one where, to me, when you look at the struggles of this offense, when you look at the performance of this offense in 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8, and why they can't always find that good consistency, it comes down from 2 matters. First matter is you're really staying committed to running the football. You got one back with almost 200 carries. You have another back with 149 carries as your 2 back. You're trying to run the ball, and you're trying to run the ball a lot early downs. You're trying to run the ball a lot early downs and early in the game. Now, when that fails in the way I'm talking about, to the degree that I'm talking about, that then leads to you in the 3rd and longs, that leads to offensive devastation and drives that go kaput really fast. So what I mean by go boom is this, because we're going to speak about this all in relative terms. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and that this run game is going to consistently, suddenly now in week 16, 17, it's suddenly going to wake up and start getting chunk yard runs on a consistent basis. Some of this is dependent on opponent for sure. But as we've seen with so many of these opponents, the other kind of twist of the titty here, if you were, is the way that the opponents have played us almost seemingly collectively. You're getting in the playoffs and you're, not facing a couple of different teams that will be in there like Philadelphia, like the Rams would be like this, the Panthers will be like this. So there are some of these kind of, lighter box kind of teams that aren't going to necessarily put as much commitment down to stacking the box. But this is also third rung of this in the run game struggles and what's kind of been the cause for it sometimes being really good and then just finding a lot of that boom or bust side of it is that defenses are stacking that box and they're putting those extra guys down there. And this was, I'll tell you what, no clearer than this last week and watching the two different approaches by two different defenses here from the Rams to the Seahawks. Because though the Rams aren't really a stack boxing team, I'm watching them play our run game over and over again. And I'm seeing 3-4 fronts, 2 linebackers behind the 3-4 looks, and the safety brought down just to the right shoulder, left shoulder of the linebacker. That's a lot of guys down there around the line of scrimmage. And that's a Rams team that likes to live in light boxes. In fact, it was kind of an adjustment from how they played us in the first game, where there was, I think, a little bit more of the light boxes brought in and what they were looking to do. So this is the third part that just makes the running game kind of a little bit of a trudge for us in this way. So when I talk about boom, would it be nice if we can get to the spot where this can get the little, chips here, a little, 3 yard here. Hey, 5 yard here. Here's a 6, back to 3 yard. Oh, there's a 5 yard. And we're finding Sam and company at third and shorts. That'd be great. Am I counting on that happening or saying that has to be the necessity here? Do you get to a Super Bowl? No, I'm not. I'm saying that it's got to go boom. It's got to find those big plays then throughout the game. It's Kenneth Walker on the 3rd and 17 on a draw play. Kind of play that just maddens a lot of fans because they go, you never get that. And Walker goes and gets you the first down on that play. Got upended because Cooper Kupp had a fumble a couple plays later from that. But you get that. You get a 55-yarder here. You get a couple of nice runs from Charbonnet, including him pounding it in from about 5 yards away at the goal line. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. You're going to have to find effectiveness with it. We know at this point probably effectiveness isn't going to come down on those little dink, 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 dink. It's going to have to be more of, whoa, look out. He's out in the open. And that's just been the nature of this particular beast this season because of those 3 factors I mentioned, those 3 things that kind of interweave together there a little bit, where you haven't necessarily run blocked your best. You can't get the consistent runs. You're trying to do it, but it's not working. The way the defense is playing you on top of it, it all mixes together to kind of make it this way. But this has to find some form of effectiveness here in what you do. 1 second. I don't need my name up here. One thing I've always been driving me crazy with this. Oh, they make you do the name. Well, you know what? I don't like name. We'll go with it. Boom. How about that? How about that? All right, let's move to the next thing on my item, my list. Number 2. Number 2 is going to be something that we have seen starting to actually come on suddenly, even this past week, which is Shaheed and Cooper Kupp are going to need to diversify this passing offense. One of the turns here through the back half of the schedule that we've seen is more teams dedicating more of the double teams to JSN. It's not that it's coming 24/7 into his direction, but what it does mean that it's coming enough to where Sam can't just do what he kind of was able to do early on in the year, was count on the fact that he was going to get single coverage with JSN and then just see if he can win the route or not. And then boom, work him in that way, trusting and he is going to beat that route. Hit him on the right on the angle of where he's just getting into his break. I know he'll be open and there won't be a second defender lurking there over the top. But as we saw in the last play of the game for the 2-point conversion, and that came on the heels, by the way, of having single coverage on the touchdown that he had prior to the 2-point conversion. So this is also where we come back to Sam's got to trust his keys on this one. But trusting in those keys means there's got to be times his eyes are taking him pre-snap into Shaheed, taking him pre-snap into Cooper Kupp. They don't have to light the world on fire. The necessity here won't be that we need 100-yard games from either of these two guys. But I think the sweet spot is somewhere in that 50 to 70 yards to Shaheed or Kupp, and then the other guy bringing in like 35 to 50 yards-ish on the other side if he can, and mix that in with JSN, and that will be enough. I'd almost say that it'd be nice to get some tight end production around that or running back production out of the backfield around that. You'll get a little bit of that in there, but really this is where, to me, the necessity is, because I think that there's times with Darnold this year where there has been a little bit of hyperfixation over onto JSN because it was just working so well. And you can't blame the guy. I'd be fixated too. I got the guys about ready to set records here on the outside. Yeah, I'm going to keep throwing it over there to him. Yeah, I'm going to keep trusting him. So you can understand the draw and the lean, but got to adjust to how defenses are styling into you at this point. And there's certainly a lot of tape out there on the Seattle Seahawks with, bring up those stack boxes, fudge up the protections, drop back in, run the 4-man fronts, get everybody back into coverage, squeeze those zones down, angle towards JSN, and will Sam go out there and find the right read to the other side of that. I think he's fully able of doing it, but he's got to stay in that pocket of, trusting your reads, less of the pocket of got to feed JSN, got to feed JSN, got to feed JSN. Still find JSN the ball, but keep it working every which way. And these guys are last couple of weeks here collectively. I know last week Shaheed was held without a catch. He did have the end around. Manufacture some touches for him would be great. But I think this is going to be the big key as we get in the playoffs, is that you can't just go in playoffs going, it's going to have to be a 150-yard game for JSN, and that's the way we're going to win this thing. I think it's going to have to combine with these good defenses of being able to attack mismatches, being able to attack defenses for when they draw those double teams. So the thing that we always struggle to do with DK Metcalf is DK would draw so many of those double teams, and we never really forced defenses or made defenses pay the price for being so much of selling out into that direction of things. And it should be there. Kubiak's a smart enough play caller to understand how to take advantage of that type of stuff. But that's going to be an important factor here as we go down here in the stretch. I got 3 now in regards to Sam Darnold. 3 here in a row. And these are going to be 3 specific points with Sam Darnold. 3 points with Sam Darnold that have nothing to do with him being hyper productive, have nothing to do with him throwing for 300 yards a game. They're going to be very, very specific in where I'm looking to target here with him. But these are 3 keys in watching Sam Darnold throughout this year that I think are really, really important for Darnold to be considering here as we get into the playoffs, as things get tight, as points get narrow, as possessions start to get fewer with the teams collectively more entrenched into trying to run the ball, especially when there's inclement weather conditions. So you've got to keep in mind these 3 things from a Sam perspective. I think they're all somewhat controllable in what he does, but somewhat also a little bit of like Mike Macdonald talked about in the throw he made to Cooper Kupp on the sideline, fitting it in between 2 defenders, feathering it on in there between those 2 defenders that are kind of layered between Cooper Kupp, and that you've got to trust him on some of those throws too. So it's not that he can't play it safe, but he's got to try to find a way to avoid those bad interceptions that are the ones you can't control. You hit your back foot, you made a read, the guy jumps the route like they did on that pick 6. I'm sure that might even be one that Clint Kubiak might go, that might happen here and there. It happens on those other plays, though, where it's late in the play, where he's trying to do the hero thing way too late, where he's throwing back across his body, or he's rolling. Those are the ones I think that is more of in his control. Certainly protecting the ball with 2 hands when he gets out in space, getting down if he's going to run with the ball, being mindful of the fact that that's been a bit problematic. So if he feels that defender in, then make sure he's wrapping that up with a second hand. I'm not asking him to play safe, not asking him to play in a box, but just to understand you have a great defense. This last week should not wipe away what the defense has done throughout the course of this year, especially on a short week, in that they're going to be able to go out in a playoff game and hold it down for you. Keep that team very likely to under 20 points. So a lot of it is going to be how you prevent the turnovers and you keep those pulled away, while still finding effectiveness, understanding this is not the easiest of my points to have happen, but this is going to be the one that if they go in a Super Bowl run here and they go and win the Super Bowl, we're going to be looking back at it and we're going to say, and Sam really did a good job of protecting the ball throughout the playoffs to go and get you there. Another point here on Sam. I've said this many different times over. I will continue to say this. Sam's got to be willing to use his legs. Bryce Young is a guy that does have more mobility than a Sam Darnold. And in watching the tape on Bryce Young, it stands out to me again of a lot of what Bryce is doing is not necessarily exemplary quarterback play. But what he's doing is he's got 3 different facets of the modern day quarterback position that he is utilizing within his bag. He is utilizing the on-time stuff, he's utilizing the improvisation, and he's utilizing the legs. But the second 2 on that list are not being used at a super high rate. So you as a defense can't just drop the spy back in space. You can't just count on the fact that he's constantly looking, as we see many mobile quarterbacks, for the reason to go and run and move. Because he operates so much on time and in the context of the offense, it makes what he does when he does those other 2 things that much harder to deal with. And it makes it hard to kind of pin down this Panther offense and really bind them up or force them into a corner, because they can kind of do a little bit of everything across the board, and as he can as well. So within this, to Sam's point, I would say too, is that Sam very much can take you apart in passing. And he's got enough mobility there to be functional as a guy mobility-wise, to go get you some yardage, You look at this game coming up against the Carolina Panthers. A couple moments this last week with Baker Mayfield where he's able to bust out the pocket. The pass rush gets 2 out of control. They're only sending 4. There's a wide open lane for you to go and run. Baker goes and takes it. And he has a nice big scramble on the back of it. Again, Sam's not Baker. He's not going to move that quite that well, but you can go get those yards. And it's again all about getting those positive plays. As many positive plays as this offense can stack up. Big plays are great. And there's a feast or famine factor to this whole team, by and large, quite frankly, but especially to the offense. But because of that, what can you manufacture? What can you take that is looking like a negative and turn into a positive? Find those places as well. It's about those inches. It's about those that little extra foot, that little extra series that we got that extra first down on because I went there and scrambled and got the 8 yards. And you want a guy maybe protect his body, not do that too much throughout the course of the year early on. Okay, now we go for broke, Sam. Now we got to use the legs. Now we can't have plays where it's late in the down and you're rolling up to the front of the line of scrimmage there and there's 5 yards to be had there, but you're kind of being super careful or you just really want to force the throw. It's not going to be able to happen here for us to be able to get over the top on this. He's got to find a way to use his legs and use his legs, quite frankly. Aside from this list, this would be the one where I'd say more than he has throughout most of this year. It's gotten better since the Ram game. He's brought it in just a little bit more. I'm not saying it's got to be 7 rushes a game, but just a couple times a game, find those key moments to hit that defense when they're off balance, when they're selling out fully for the pass, when those guys are dropping into routes, when you roll to your right and the running back to your right carries the defender out of the way, and then you've just got an open space there where all the guys are deep and that defender's going out of their way with his head turned because he knows you're not going to run it. He knows there's no chance that's going down. Punish him for it. Punish him, Sam. You can do it, man. Last of my 3. And again, none of these are major things I think you'll find with Sam on my delineation of this. These are all, I think, well within potentially his control. The control of the ball part's the one, protecting the ball is definitely the one that's the toughest one of this bunch. But Sam takes the check down and security blanket options. This is another one that's been a subtle adjustment from the Rams game where it wasn't even as much of a refusal from Sam to do it. I don't think he has been as much embracing it through a lot of this year at times, the check down game, the security blanket game. He wants to let the big dog hunt. I get that. We all want to let the big dog. We all want the one wood, give me the Big Bertha out the bag. Come on. I get it, Sam. I get it, bro. I do. But defenses are also keyed to it. It's in conjunction with my point about using your legs. Word out in the street is you don't want to run. Word out on the street is that you'll avoid running like your life depended on it. So, likewise, not as much of all the time has he been locked in on utilizing these security blankets and checkpoints. And you've got to do so when defenses are going to so firmly establish a dropping back into coverage and really falling back far into space. And sometimes even kind of forgetting back the running backs even there. I really would love to see him continue to utilize that stuff, have Clint Kubiak bake a lot of the stuff into the playbook because this also goes back to the running game going boom. And then if your running game ain't working in a playoff, if you're not finding any headway, if it's a lot of -1, no gain, ain't getting anywhere fast, okay, well then let's do a manufactured pass out in the space with Walker out in space and let him go cook on a couple. Throw him 4 or 5 throws out in the flat over the course of the game. As well as it keeping the defense honest, it gives your playmaker a chance to get out there and make some damage done. As we saw with Walker, a big play happening. And back again to what's going to be the theme on this, the feast or famine factor of it. We're going to have to embrace the feasting side of this team. When it's hot, there is no more explosive offense in all of football. 4 games this year with 30-point halves alone. There's been 6 collectively in all of football this season outside of our 4. So that's who you are offensively. That is what you are offensively. That's fine. That's fine. We're going to get the famine moments with that. That's fine. But we got to then maximize out the feast moments. And doing that's going to be utilizing checkdowns, getting throws out into space, getting back to those plus plays. You got a grade A defense. You got a grade A special teams unit. You got more than an effective enough offense to go out there and put points on the board. Sam doesn't have to be a superhero here. That's the whole point of this whole argument I've been making about the quarterback position for now years with this, where so many fan bases there are so heartily locked into this spot, the undeniable place where you have to get that superstar quarterback to go and win yourself the Super Bowl. And I've been maintaining I don't think you need to do it. You need to have the guy that's top 10. Playing within his skill set's fine. Still plenty of big throws there to be made. Plenty of opportunities for him to really still show his mettle, that it's not just a guy I'm saying is average. I'm not saying middle of the road quarterback. You're going to need a little bit more than that. But Sam's that and a little bit more in my opinion. fully capable of utilizing this stuff. Some of this comes back to Kubiak and making it a point of emphasis in the play calling and how they're looking to attack these defenses. Especially you're going to face those defenses, they're going to want to drop all those guys into coverage. So a lot of that's going to be built upon dropping them into space to depth. All the more reason to try to just kind of get the ball into space to your guys' hands, let them go work. Let them go cook up a little bit. All right, that's the only ones on Sam, by the way. That's all we got with Sam. It's none of that was about him throwing for this many touchdowns or this much yards or he's got to make dime throws all over the field. I think that stuff's going to come, quite frankly. So I don't really have a question of that. This might be a must be. These are the items that I'm not sure as much if Sam's going to fully embrace in his game or Kubiak's going to fully embrace in the play calling. If they do, I think that's a measure of a thing that helps to get you up over the top. The injury situation must hold strong. I think this one's a pretty straightforward one, and this is kind of a little bit of a no-duh one, but if I didn't mention it, then somebody would have said you should have mentioned that too. Injuries got to go and hold. McIntosh, Elijah Arroyo, Torrey Horton, some of your major injuries this year, you've been able to do as good a job in recent Seattle Seahawks history as we've seen of maintaining your health. And that is not a small reason as to why you find yourself at the end of the season with one of the best records that we've had in Seattle Seahawks history. You got 2 more games left. You got the playoffs. Playoff games are even harder than regular season games. They're even more a game of attrition and guys going extra hard, even much harder than the regular season, quite frankly. The intensity just ratchets up. It just does. So you're going to have a little bit of the injury luck on your side and be able to maintain that. Luckily, the Seattle Seahawks have shown they've built up a really strong, deep team. It's not just as reliant on the front line guys. So if something does happen here or there, they've got a little bit of an ability to sustain themselves. But it's going to be one thing to monitor, and it's going to be an important factor here down this home stretch, as you have a couple positions that get a little lean here or lean there, and you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. So got to hold up. Special teams continues not to be average, not to be good, not to be very good, not to be great, but the best special teams unit in all of football to dominate. We walked into the Atlanta Falcons game and we previewed that game, and I said, hey, this is a game where the Falcons are one of the worst special teams unit in football. You're the best. You're going to see in a game like this what factor that can play into the part of a football game. How often we want to throw special teams out and go, yeah, it's important. Sure. Yeah, no, good kicker, good punter, right, as they roll their eyes, right, when people talk about that stuff, where they'll say things like, well, it's 80%, 80% to the offense and defense, and maybe you throw 20 into the special teams. Well, you come back to a game like that where there is that discrepancy between the two teams and what they've built and the purposeful nature of what they've built to be as good as it is. And certainly in that second half, the start of the second half, you have a 6-6 tie that's broken at that point by Rashid Shaheed. A game-changing play that shifted momentum back into the direction of the Seahawks, gave them that wind to go out there and get the win. That's what that can do, having that. And we learned this in the Super Bowl, because we know that Percy Harvin touchdown for a return after second half in the Super Bowl, that was the nail in the coffin. Didn't matter what happened through the rest of that second half. At that point, that game was over. Done. So it's got to maintain that. Last week, you had the same thing here with Shaheed, able to shift the momentum with that return, able to give you a breath of life. That's what this supplies, having this kind of dominant unit. And then Myers in the backside of this, pumping through 50-plus yarders like it ain't no thing for game. Going to need that. Michael Dixon, once again snubbed for the Pro Bowl this year, but fully deserving. Still maintain the guy's on a Hall of Fame pace if you can be for a punter. He continues to boom them. He continues to punt very, very well. And then your ability on defending on the kick returns and punt returns has been outstanding this year. Both. Say nothing of Myers' ability to do those little squib kicks that kind of rolls through and catch. Those guys can't seem to pick up his ball and catch you after it's on a roll there. Just one more item there that you are great at. So they're going to have to dominate. There's no doubt about that. That's a separating factor for the Seattle Seahawks team. A big, big, big factor as it's played out in a couple of games particularly. But it will so as well in the playoffs. The number 1 seed in the NFC. I know. There's a lot of you Hawk fans that are confident. I know there's a lot of you Hawk fans out there that say, no problemo. We do great on the road. We had 11 straight wins on the road this year. We got it. It's got to do that. We don't mind. We can do it that way. We can do it that way. But if I'm going to be realistic and looking at this Super Bowl and our aspirations this year, I've related this back at times to the 2012 Seattle Seahawks team. And that this team is essentially, if you look at it from a phase standpoint, kind of about right there where that team was. Rookie year Russell Wilson, albeit with a great defense, kind of a year early. Very, very young football team. One of the youngest football teams in the NFL, I believe, that season. Kind of a year early. But sometimes things can happen in a jump-started fashion. Sometimes it can be a year early. Things that arrive. And as was the case for that team, it arrived a year early. You got hotter as the team went on. You posted 250 burgers on the Bills, on the Cardinals. You slapped the crap out of the 49ers. You were walking into that playoffs in Fuente, hot as possible. And then you went out there and you had to go on the road in the first round. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was an early game in that Atlanta game. I think it was a 10 a.m. on the road in the playoffs. So, you were hot as hell, but these are some tough environments to still potentially have to go into. Chicago in winter, Philadelphia in the winter, Carolina, as hard as that we're going to learn about them this week and how good that they can play at home. Certainly LA if we lose this division or San Francisco. Those are all going to be, tough environments to go and step into if that's going to be the way that this happens. I think from looking at it and looking at the histories past and looking at Seahawks teams in the past that got in the playoffs and those that have had the number one seed versus those that have to go on the road, like into Lambeau or like into Chicago. I think we've lost a couple in somewhat recent years in Chicago in the playoffs on the road. It's just too tough. It's going to be too hard, I think. For this team that's a little year early, we're talking about next year, the 2026 team, and you've topped off the tank if you're John Schneider, and you got all the guns a-blowing. That'll be one thing. When you're souped up and good for the nines, and you've made your Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill additions, and here you go, okay. But if you're a year early like this, it's probably going to take us having a little bit of a downhill trajectory to help us pick up the right speed to take this thing up over the top. Not saying it's impossible to get it on the road, but I think it would be highly unlikely that they'd be able to pull this off on the road. Probably get a win or two, but I think that you eventually end up that becomes too hard of a task, especially with also the bye week, the opening bye week you could have in your hands if you're able to secure this, and how big that'd be for this team to get a little bit of an extra week of rest to prepare. Give Mike Macdonald an extra week to prepare. I think that would be mighty helpful. A couple last items here. Last few. And this is back to really the spine. Actually, we'll get to that one in a second. I want to get that one last here. There we go. I'll go to a couple other specific points and go to the high level point here of all of this in a second. Edge rush production from somebody. Pressures are nice. And I know a lot of you will really love that pressure stat, and I myself will reference it quite often. I'm not denying the pressure stat. It's a good one. But the pressure stat can also start to get a little bit overboard when we start looking at players that have like a sack and a half for the season, and we're this deep into the year. As far as that goes, you got Uchenna Nwosu's got 6 sacks, but he hasn't had a full sack since the Houston Texans game. He's got 2 games with a half a sack. You got DeMarcus Lawrence pitching in with 5. And then we kind of get down the list here, and that's that whole thing of, back to kind of Derek Hall at 1. And we got Boye at 1. So you get 2 from Boye. Uchenna gave you some sacks initially there when he came back off the injury, but he's really quieted down. Really like what DeMarcus Lawrence is giving you all around. I mean, that party's been good, but again, nobody's cracking through even close to 10 sacks right now. It doesn't look like anybody's going to get through to that spot. And while it's great what you're getting from the interior here, I think there are a lot of games recently we could look at here with this defense and understanding that the pressure rates show us that the Seahawks, though they're one of the higher pressure rates teams, are actually one of the slowest at the time to generate that pressure in the league. So it might be top 5 pressure rate, but you're probably a top 27, 28 team when it comes to the time to generate that pressure. So it's not happening like that. It's happening like, okay, pressure. And that's okay. It's not that that's not still legitimate pressure, but it's a different type than the kind that's the quick kind. And part of what's happening with your defense is at times having quarterbacks drop back, have the time to assess what's going on, and then find that hole within that extra time you're giving them. So this can be mitigated a little bit by an uptick in one of the edges kind of coming to life a little bit here and getting hot. Uchenna Nwosu was a guy that had 7 straight sacks at one point in his career. He got hot. Sacks come in bunches. Guys can get hot at the right time. But I feel like if you get in this playoffs and we're looking at having to play, let's say 3 games to go win the Super Bowl if we can get that bye, then I feel like you're going to have to look back on it and say one of these edges stepped up and gave you some actual quick wins on the pass rush front, and then also gave you some actual sack contributions. Because one of the issues with the defense is kind of the inverse to what's happened with the offense this year, where you are seeing these offenses being willing to peck away at your defense. Your defense runs the light box. Offenses will run downhill and know that they can kind of sometimes get the couple of yards if they just kind of get in that spot. They're not going to get the 7 or 8 because we're good at stopping the run. You might only get the 3 or maybe the 4, but you're going to get the positive run plays because it's not a defensive line that's set up to one gap a lot and try to necessarily shoot a lot of gaps all the time. It tends to be more of kind of, it's gap and a half technically, but it tends to be more of one that tends to be more read and react kind of as a defensive line to what you're doing in the run game. And so that's put teams into third makeables. So when you're getting these sacks, when you're able to actually get them into highly negative plays, now you're into 3rd and 14. Now you're in 3rd and 15. Now Mike Macdonald can get into his bag because that's when he does like to blitz it up. That's when you start to really see the stack boxes and stuff. That's when Mike's really at his hardest, I would tell you. That's when he's at his most difficult from how a quarterback's got to deal with that. So very important that somebody from this edge group steps up and starts providing some production, because what's been happening for about the last 5-6 games is not probably going to be enough. But there have been times this year where it has worked and there has been enough there, especially with what you get on the interior. We maybe don't need a 10 sack a year type guy from production in the playoffs, but something more than we're getting now. And it just can't just be pressures. Somebody's got to get home. Someone, please. All right, last couple points here on this one, and we'll get over to you guys in the chat, see where your head's at. Here's next one in line. Bring back the Jalen Milroe package. It's time. I'm BSing you guys. Come on. I'm kidding. I'm joking. There's no way I would advocate for this. That's a little Christmas holiday joke for you there. No, I do not want to bring back the Jalen Milroe package, but I thought it was funny. So I'm making you guys deal with it. All right. Last point here. And this is the one that's about this really kind of whole thing a little bit. The run game, kind of the defense. You know, when the defense isn't going right this year, I think about it, and it hasn't happened often because it's been a damn good defense. But you got the Niners game. They're able to do a little bit of what I was just talking about, you know, nibble away at you on early downs, get in the 3rd down and makeables, kind of live on the field through a lot of that football game, eat up the time of possession, shrink down the possessions. Your offense does get a chance to really get into rhythm at times with that stuff. I think about that game. I think about the Tampa Bay game where Baker's just kind of able to throw wherever he wants to throw and finding holes all over the place. There was injuries in that game, but there was also a little bit of that famine factor from the defense as well within that game. Or this past game here against the Rams, where you give up 600 yards of offense, where it looked like at times you literally could not stop Puka Nacua. It's not something we've seen often from this defense. I'll give you that. And I think this defense, as I said earlier here in the show today, it's going to be one that's going to be consistent in what they bring you down the stretch into the playoffs. It's a defense that I think will travel well. It's a defense that I think can deal with any kind of offense that exists in the game, that they've got the answers that exist there, both from the players and then stylistically how they run their system. So I have faith in this defense. I don't think you're going to run into that famine point. But this is as much to the offense. Defense has got to be included in this, though, a little bit too, where even the special teams, you got a punt return touchdown, I think, this year, a kick return touchdown this year. Even them, they got a little bit of the hallmarks of this a little bit. But it has been the case with the offense. So those 30-point halves and then the times that they've gone quiet so often in other times of the games, they're going to have to find more of the feast thing. This comes a little bit as an outlet now, outcropping too of the run game, right? So in the run game, I say, hey, embrace the big play part of the run game. That you're probably, because of all those things that we're playing, holding back the run game from finding just constant success, consistent production, carry in and carry out, that you may just have to embrace the big play element. Likewise, and this is especially true to the offense, but the team as a whole, we're going to have to embrace some of that feast factor of this team because that's just who they are. It is the team that has come to be this year, and this team that's kind of a year early from where we thought the timeline was going to take for them to kind of get to this stage of things. And that's really the key in this, is not to point out that they don't have the stuff in it. It's to say that they have overachieved where we thought they would be. And that then to maintain that overachieving place, you're going to have to just kind of lean into what you are and what you do best. And it becomes less about trying to, or, middle season, you're trying to maybe kind of work through that stuff a little bit and try some different answers and spitball this. If you're an offensive coordinator, does, well, let's try some of this. Well, let's, try a little bit of that. You get down the home stretch of this, I think you just got to embrace that it'll be an offense that can be highly explosive in short segments. And then it's going to have segments of it where it just kind of is going to go cold. And that's going to be okay, because the bottom line is you'll still have the defense. You'll still have the special teams there that you can lean on. So it may be as one that you don't need it to do as much. And then we come back to those other points to this that connect to this being, okay, Sam, protecting the ball, using your legs, finding those boom plays in the run game, if that's what it's got to be, hunting out those, right? Big game hunting the big plays in the run game versus looking for the 3 yards in a cloud of dust, which just doesn't seem to be popping up. I think that they would be smart to kind of lean into this a little bit, because it's just who as they are this year. I don't think it's always will be who they are as they grow and get older, and they're not the third youngest team in all of football. You go, that's a lot. You're talking a little some inconsistency there. Yeah, but it's been, of course, more of the feast, but that's also, what you get with a little bit of the younger team. Part and parcel. You can't have one without the other on that, just a little bit. So these are my items. Let me know if there's one that you feel like I left out or needed to be included. I feel very strongly about these ones. I think try to get as specific as I could be to not give you guys general things like run ball good, Sam, be efficient. That stuff's kind of, I think, just a little bit too, watered down as an outlook on this, and we got to get more specific. But let's embrace the feast or famine. When those moments go cold and ice, yeah, they suck, but we know hot moments just around the corner. It's a coming, like the train around the tracks, right? I thank you guys for watching today. If you could for me, hit that like button for me. It really does help me out a ton. We crossed 21,000 subscribers here last week. Big shout out to all of you who've jumped aboard here on the channel. Really appreciate it. Had a great time last night as well. If you guys didn't have a chance on it, it got a little bit hot and heated last night on the NFC West roundtable. And I had a lot of fun with a great debate out there with Jake. Always have a good time out there with those boys, but it was a lot of fun last night, in particular with a lot of the discussions. So big shout out to them as well. Let's give a thank you here to the sponsor really quick, and then we will see where you guys are at today here in the Chan. And the sponsor of the show is going to be Sleeper. Sleeper is the #1 sports app running in the game today. My favorite sports app running the game today. Why? Because you can just go through so many individual picks. Some of these apps will just give you like 5 selections and kind of railroad you into these selections are the ones you have to make. With them, there's a lot more of a feeling of flexibility, a lot more of I can actually build the ticket I want to build. So they've got some great promos going on right now, but none bigger than the using of my code NEST, and they'll match you up to 100% of your first deposit up to $100. It's $100 from me to you through the channel. Just use that code on Sleeper in the app when you put that first deposit in. There's also a freebie $20. No deposit needed. Just create a login. They put $20 into your account. There you go. Now, terms and conditions do apply on this. That's, of course, see their site for details. And in the state of Washington, yes, there still is some lingering limitations that are supposed to ease up here very soon. So be on the lookout for it. It's passed through that it's supposed to be opened up. They're just waiting on the last details of how to tax the thing to kind of free this thing. So that's going to be able to utilize in Washington here soon. You can use it in a casino on their network in the state, and there's plenty of those all over the place, right? All over the place out there. There's my ticket here, as I got a 75% boost on this ticket. So I had to pick 5 picks to make this boost hit. I've got Bryce Young going for over 14.5 rushing yards, Cooper Kupp with over 34.5 receiving yards, 50 Walker over 55.5 rushing yards, Shaheed over 27.5 receiving yards, and then Shaheed over 2.5 receptions. So utilize Sleeper today. Thank you to them for sponsoring the show. Thank you guys for utilizing that code. And let's go check in on my peepos. See how y'all are doing today. Again, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Appreciate all of you watching. If you do have a question for me too, just please put Brando, Hawks Nest, B. I'll answer to just about anything. Thomas is with me. He says, if you compare to the 2012 Hawks, I believe this team is way better, and that's saying something. Because Seattle is deep everywhere. I think Seattle will be super aggressive in March. I think John's going to be a kid in the candy store coming off this season with a lot coming into fruition and culmination from what he's been building up. And I think he's going to get hot to trot to do just that too, Thomas. I see it the same way. You guys are some smart folks out there, I'm telling you. Stephen Panor, thank you for the $2 donation. Stephen, I got faith in Sam. He was clutch on the last drive. He was clutch. And that's a place where even in this game where he was clutch, I still had Rams fans afterwards coming into my chat saying, When you need him most, he's going to fail you. It's like, well, we kind of needed him pretty freaking bad at the end of that game, didn't we? Right? That was kind of as big a moment as you could get into needing him. And not just to go get the drive, but to go get the drive and execute the 2-point conversion. And execute the 2-point conversion on his fourth read in his play. He had to first go to Cooper Kupp on the speed out option, comes back over there to JSN as his secondary route, comes back over on the drag route there to Barner, and then eventually comes off the chip block to Saubert. But we've also Stephen seen this throughout the course of the year with him too. This is not the first dance here that he's had in doing this. You've got, we got the Arizona game, brought you back from behind in that one. He's had a couple of moments where, he's had you back from behind, got you down, got you the win a couple weeks ago. The Indianapolis game, he drove you down, got you the field goal, which should have been for win. You let Phillip Rivers and company go down and get another field goal. So then he had to go down a second time to then go get you the win once again on another field goal attempt. And so I think he's shown enough in this year on that he's got that in his bag. And you need him down the end. You need him to go get a drive down the end. He may not be like some of those quarterbacks we talk about that we go, man, that guy's almost perfect in those moments. He's unstoppable in those moments. Maybe not to that degree to overstate it, but you feel confident in him. I think faith is the right word. I have faith in him in those moments. Thank you though, Stephen. Appreciate you. Lucky Luker. Thank you for the $10 donation. Lucky says, Rams fan here. Merry Christmas to you, Brandon, and just came to congratulate your Seahawks. Ram fans choked, and I don't blame the refs on Thursday night. Jake needs to stop crying and coping about the refs. Well, Lucky, I really appreciate you coming in. Number one, first, Merry Christmas to you, and hope you and your family have a really, really great Christmas. Appreciate as well as your sentiment on this. And I think it gets lost a little bit in our battle and our fight on this of what really I was trying to drive through on that discussion, and I think you can appreciate it. It sounds like from where you're coming from on this. Which it's no fun to be on the bad end of a classic game. I get it. Look, we were on that end of it with the Super Bowl, and you should have ran it with Marshawn and all that, right? Forever on the bad end of what's going to be looked at as one of the all-time great Super Bowls. And likewise with you guys on this one, it's like, well, we got on the ending losing side of this, but to me, there's no shame to the Rams in this game. And it's something that's why I led with at the front too. Last night and talked about this of like, look, they're just as dangerous as ever. They haven't had their spine broke off this game like Batman by Bane. They have everything in their purposes to be able to go back out and have a hot playoffs and go and win this Super Bowl. I acknowledge all of that and I believe all that. But it's more of like, appreciate this game we just played, in the same way that you appreciated the Kansas City game. It was kind of the last point I put on last night. I'm sure you heard of it, where I said to him, I get the impression a little bit of that game that you talk about so often about how remarkable a game it was and how high in steam you and how much cool it is to remember how that game played out. The game between the Rams and the Chiefs, where it's like 50 points scored between the two teams or something like that. And then you look at it that high, and that if there had been one call in that game that didn't go your favor, that it would have altered your whole outlook and how you would have viewed that game. And to me, that's unfortunate because that was as good as it gets. If you're a football fan and you want to watch great action, you want to watch a great football game that just intense actions, swings, wild things occur, things happening you've never seen before, all mixed up into a bag. I mean, that game gave it to you. And I got to be on the good end of it. So it certainly is easy on my part, Lucky, to say, just enjoy it. Sit back and enjoy it. Like, well, that's easy when you're sitting shotgun, huh? I'm back here in the back seat. The exhaust is blowing back in through the window. I can't breathe and I'm coughing. But I just felt like it was a classic game between these two teams. I love this division. I love that your team and the Niners are in this division, that we separate ourselves from the rest of this NFL by how good these teams are, how hard fought this division will be by whoever takes it. And hopefully from within that, whoever takes it, Lucky, or whoever comes out of this division or comes out of this NFC, that it is a team out of this NFC. Because there is a great argument to be made that the two best teams in this sport lie in this division. And I'm not talking the San Francisco 49ers. But a Merry Christmas to you. I appreciate where you're coming from. I wasn't looking to necessarily walk into last night going at Jake on this too hard, Lucky, with it. But as you've seen the fan base outside of just Jake, I think a lot of why I did that last night wasn't just Jake, but also what was being echoed a lot in my own chat from Ram fans coming on in. And Ram fans are still always respectful, but just that they were coming in respectfully whining about the officials a lot for a couple days there. And it kind of got to about day 3 of it. And something kind of probably snapped a little bit in the old brainola. And I went, okay, I think I've heard enough on this narrative. You know what I mean? And so it probably had me going in. And as I told Z-Bot last night walking in, this will be my nuclear option if Jake's magnanimous into defeat. And it's simply, hey, we fought out. We're going to beat your ass in the playoffs. You guys didn't prove anything. Or as Jake said last night, which I thought was another good thing, was a good thing on Jake what said and accurate, and that we were the better team the first time but lost, and you guys were the better team last night but lost. We'll see you again the third time. I think that's a good way of putting it, quite frankly. So appreciate where you're coming from, Lucky. Thank you for the donation to also get that sentiment across. And it certainly wasn't all Ram fans with this. It was just that there was enough that it got loud enough that I wanted to just kind of put my foot down on this as a narrative coming off this game, because we're going to talk about this game historically. I'm going to talk about this game historically with Jake a lot, Lucky. It's going to come back up again down the line, especially if one of these teams goes and wins the Super Bowl, especially if we win the Super Bowl. And so I just want to make sure that we're not saying like, well, it went without saying that the refs definitely had this screw. It was the Seattle screw job, or something like that, What's that one in WWE, the Toronto, what they did with Bret Hart, the Toronto screw job or something like that. So thank you, man. I really appreciate the donation, and I really appreciate your sentiments on this. Just wanted to kind of like, okay, let's prove our cases and let the audience decide where the chips fall in this one. You know what I mean? I know I'm not going to get Jake to agree with me on this, but let's get the Jesse and Mike, and let's get Z-Bot, and let's get the audience on this and see where you guys stand on this. But I appreciate you. Very kind of you. Mark Sanchez with $100 donation. Let's go, Mark. Mark, you are the man. Thank you for the $100 donation drop. That is very kind of you. Thank you. I tell you what, is never enough. Never enough. You are awesome, Mark. Really appreciate you. He says, B, Merry Christmas. Here's the hundo for the bet. Bet promised, bet delivered. Mark said he'd throw a hundo in whoever's chat with the bet. It took Mark. Mark was the big, and Mark and Megan were the big able to get the drivers on Jake to wear the Seahawks beanie. So if you just want just one thing to check out in NFC West roundtable from last night, on top of being one of the greater shows out there you can see, is that you get to see Jake in a Seahawks beanie. What a sight to see that was, huh, Mark? And you were the man that helped drive that by saying, hey, I'll drop 100 in either chat on if you take the beanie. You knew I would do it. You knew I didn't need the hundo carrot. You knew Jake needed that carrot, and you dropped that thing just in front of his face, man. You dropped that $100 bill just right there in front of the face, and he couldn't say no. There's no denying at that point. He says, here's the hundo for the bet. Jake looked awesome in that green beanie. He had a lot of excuses and ref blaming, but he did own up to it and said that he's sour about this loss. It was great you pulled out the receipts. Happy holidays and go Hawks. Yeah, I do not ever really like it when we've got something that we can prove and kind of prove, in my opinion on this, on the two accounts that were really the issues that Jake had and a lot of Ram fans have, being those two plays, the 2-point conversion and then the touchdown that gets nullified. The big issue comes back to it on that is that we can prove those to be the correct call. I can prove it. And we were able to show last night, I have an old 22 shot of the right guard, past the line of scrimmage, well past a yard, past the line of scrimmage. That's a penalty. And it's a penalty that I'm not being a Johnny-come-lately on, because we've had that penalty called on us twice this year, with a lineman getting similarly far down the field. And we know, in addition, as I looked up on this rule, because I wanted to double check, because they said, I remember them saying in the telecast one point this year that it was a point of emphasis. And indeed, this has been a recent point of emphasis by the NFL. You throw those three things together, and it doesn't mean that the fix was, in for Seattle. It means that that's the way this is getting called in the sport this year. And so I won't always be a guy that's going to go and bring these receipts up every time to prove a case. But when there's going to be what I anticipated to be knowing and going in, that divergence of opinion where we're both looking up at the sky and you're telling everybody it's easy to see that it's red, and I'm over there going, no, it's blue. I can go take a shot of I can take a screenshot of the sky and we can present it to everybody. And I think sometimes in some of our debates in there, it just kind of becomes your word against that guy's word a little bit, where I think that that was a time last night, for kind of some of the reasons I've mentioned about this game and why I kind of pushed it so hard, to say, let's actually prove what we're saying on this, just not what we're feeling. I think Jake did a great job with it. I think it was really cool that we were able to have that discussion last night because things can get heated and that kind of stuff. You know, we both believe what we believe and it's going to get a little bit hot at times, but I've got to give Jake a lot of props and that, you know, he was listening to what I was saying. He wasn't closed off to it. You know, he wasn't closed-minded to it. He's got an opinion I disagree with, but you know, I think we both did a good job of we're attacking the arguments. Like I am a proponent for in here over and over again, as we get sometimes people in here who will attack the man or the woman, and that's what they want to go at first and foremost. And they don't want to build the case. And I think each of us was trying to build our individual case for why we believe what we believed about those plays in that particular game. And I think that he owned it up enough. You know, and I think that he kind of started to see my point, hopefully at the end, like I mentioned on that Kansas City game and the Ram game from a couple of years ago, and kind of understanding a little bit of why I was doing what I was doing with it. I think it made for good entertainment, but there was a purpose involved too, as well on top of all of it. But Mark had to pull out the receipts, brother. I had to do it. And I didn't even show all the receipts, by the way, folks. I could have been worse. I could have been worse. Like I sent him more than that. That was not the only thing. So this was the one that I still left off, which I could have tapped on top. See if I got it here. Of course, I can't find it now. Huh. Thought I had that in there. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's play the one more here. This is the one I didn't get to last night. Well, first off, this, of course, is the play from last night. Or not last night, but this is the play I was talking about. You're going to watch Jaron Reed here on this play. And this, I think, was pretty case closed. So they said in the telecast, the guy said in the telecast, it's a bad call. And this is what sent Jake out, is that the commentator said that Jaron Reed pushed the right guard into the end zone. So it was acknowledged even on the telecast that he got too far. You're on the 1 yard line. You only get to go 1 yard past the line of scrimmage. You guys tell me if Jaron Reed pushed him here. Does that look like a push to you? Or does it look like the guy got a little too overeager, taking over for Kevin Dotson? And they go, well, he got his arm up and he got his arm on him. He got his arm up to do a swim move, but the guy's got him pushed back on his back foot so he can't land the swim move and push him back. Like you can see, Jaron Reed goes up for the swim move, but watch how he can't get any momentum to then shift him on the executing move of the swim move, the finish. You first go arm over, then the hand goes to the side of the shoulder, and then you try to get the guy pushed out of the way off that side shoulder. You're trying to, use that momentum against him. But that's also kind of the tell of the move itself, is telling you the fact the guy had pushed him downfield. Because part of the reason that you go to the swim move is to use over leverage, is to use over too much momentum from the lineman, where he gets too hard forward, and you try to take advantage of that to just kind of swim around him, letting him go past. So that in itself is kind of a tell to this whole move. But as you can see, let's see right here. First, Jaron's pushing nobody here. Explain to me how this is Jaron pushing anybody here. It's not what's happening. But let's go to right. Okay. Stafford just lets go of the ball right there with Drake Thomas in pressure. 67 is the guard. He's standing right there, 1 yard deep in the end zone. Case mother effing closed. Case closed. It's an end of story situation there. So we debunked that one pretty heartily last night. Got one more, though, I want to show you guys. This is one that I was telling Jake about last night. This is one I didn't get a chance to show on the show last night. Thank you again, Mark. You're awesome with that $100 donation. But this was one I didn't get a chance to show last night. What I want you guys to take note of here is Puka Nacua, 17. is in the slot. Devin Witherspoon's going to be manned up on him in man coverage. What's going to happen on this play is Nacua is going to run a crossing route to the back corner of the end zone. He's going to try to run through Quandre Diggs. Quandre Diggs and defenders in the NFL have a right to the space they're standing in. They don't have to get out of the way of a receiver running into them, into their space, right? They can't step in front of the guy, but if they're just standing there and the receiver comes through, that's not on them. Now, with that said, all of that's kind of irrelevant on this play because what happens is their legs get tangled up. So watch here. Witherspoon tight in coverage. Legs get tangled up there with legs. You can't really see it great, but legs get tangled up there. Puka Nacua falls down after his legs tangled there with Quandre. Quandre falls down as well to show you Quandre wasn't trying, like he fell down too. And if legs tangle up between a defensive back in space and a receiver, that's what we call inadvertent contact. And it's not a flag. What did this play do? What did this play do? Gave him freaking first round. Gave him the first down. Went down from a third down, would have made him force a field goal. I think it would have been tied us up, given us the ball back. Now they got a touchdown. We got to get a touchdown now. They get a first down, auto first down. And there's a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff we've dealt with. Not to say that I outright blame refs or that say, like I said last night, that the Rams have the fix in for them. Quite the opposite. I'm not saying that. Like, hey, bad calls happen, stuff with it, but just does go back to it's like if you're going to go to that fan base that's dealt with a lot of those slings and arrows playing your particular team in recent years, it's going to be a tough sell to that fan base and saying somehow that, things are not like, we just need to leave it off the table. It's kind of the bottom line on that one. We just need to maybe not raise that one up, But thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Brian Myers, thank you for the $20 donation. Very kind of you, Brian. Appreciate y'all. You're very kind, all of you are. He says, B, Merry Christmas, and thanks for all you do. Season's been amazing so far, and look forward for the rest here in the nest. Go Hawks! Well, thank you for that. This has been my favorite year in covering this team for a variety of different reasons, partly because I just feel like the community and all of us together are kind of finding our flow. We've always kind of been getting right along in the right spot, but just feels like we're in that nice place now where we've got kind of the honey spot of how this channel runs, what we're all trying to do, how we're trying to talk about this team. Tough discussions, easy discussions, fun discussions, celebratory discussions. We're going to do it all here. But you're a key part of what makes this community what it is here too, Brian. It is you guys collectively that makes this channel go. It is you guys collectively that when I go to the NFC West that talks about how our community is so awesome. It's that you guys that I hear from these folks that talk all the time about how cool the Seahawks fan base is and the online fan base and all of that. When do you hear about that with other fan bases? And that's not a testament to me. That is a testament solely to you guys on this. This place could be anything. It could be a troll fest. It could be a bitch fest. It could be a everybody anger and throwing about toxicity fest in that way, but it's never not that. It's very rarely we ever have seen that kind of shift here, if ever. And it really is only done because the collective here of all of us in this chat and understanding what we're trying to get back to what we're trying to do, what we want to do here, which is talk football and get into the depths of it and really unpack every layer of this sport and celebrate it in every way, right? Celebrate it in every fashion. Go Hawks, though. And Brian, thank you for the $20 donation. Very kind of you. Brian comes in with another $20 donation. Let's go, man. Let's go. Woo. He says the other half of my dono. Well, I really appreciate that. Dog, thank you. Appreciate you for that. $20 drop back to back. Merry Christmas, Brian. You and yours. Hopefully you're having a great Christmas out there. And you guys are tremendously kind. You in addition, as far as being a member of the channel and so many donations through so many of the years here in this channel. Really, really thank you for that. And really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Very, very kind of you. You guys are awesome. Dogzilla coming in with a $20 donation. Let's go, Dogzilla. Z-Bot says last night, you're dropping oranges on me today. You're dropping oranges, and I'm getting the old tomato there from Mark above. And my goodness, you guys are so kind. Thank you for that, Dogzilla. I really appreciate you too, man. Just another key part of this community here. He says, Merry Christmas. Thanks for everything. Matching Brian Myers, best I can, in agreement. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate you too, and this being part of this community here, Dogzilla, and I love what I get to do, man. It's really been a fun year this year. It's been such a great surprise seeing the Hawks do what they've done, certainly, but it's just felt like a great year where we feel like we're always making progress here, and bit by bit getting a little bit better, and bit by bit getting further along down the path of what we're trying to accomplish and get to here. And I feel like we're doing just like our Seahawks team. We're breaking through in that way. But thank you, man. I appreciate you for all you've done for this channel and this community as well. It's very, very, very much appreciated. I love my peoples. And Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Thank you. R. DeLevy coming in with a $20 donation as well. R. DeLevy. Thank you so very much. You guys are tremendous. Tremendous here. And he says, Merry Christmas, Brandon. Great job calling games again this year. After the trials of last month, I think the Hawks' greatest asset is tenacity. No one, especially Sam, crawls into their shell no matter how bad things get. It is a spirit you see from this team, and let's face it, it's a spirit that we've seen from other teams that can sink very talented teams, and that if you're not all in alignment, if you don't have everybody with that sort of sense of, is there a minute on the clock? Is there 10 seconds on the clock? Is there 1 second on the clock? Then I'm getting at it with 100% of all of what I've got, because we got a chance, and we truly got that chance. And I don't think in a lot of these games, to your point on this, with that tenacity, with that resiliency, that you get these games if you don't have that in the bedrock of this football team. And I think it began to levy in we saw it kind of in the tremors and the slight little ripples there of the offseason and the voluntary offseason part of OTAs, and that you had full participation in that. And the way that these leaders have led and how they've talked about the vision that they want to execute here. And there's times where players talk on a podium and they speak and you go, yeah, that's a lot of good kind of sound bites that they've kind of thought through a lot and kind of just, I've heard it from so many different players, but when these guys talk, when Ernest Jones talks, when Leonard Williams talks, when these guys speak, it's in a manner of purposefulness, and you believe what they're saying and what they want and how they're wanting to get there. And it doesn't guarantee you're going to get there to that championship place, but if you don't have that spirit from your leaders and from your vets, I can guarantee you're not going to get there, that there's no chance of getting there. And Sam, to your point, has also been a part of that, been a key part of that. Plenty of games this year with all the turnover he's had. Just can't get this thing for him. He keeps coming back swinging. 4 interceptions in that Rams game, keep coming out swinging. Think of how many quarterbacks would throw 4 picks against that Rams defense and then could go down at the end of the game, get themselves a touchdown drive, start out at the 1 yard line after the touchdown drive you got, and still get yourself into field goal range. Still get that team moved up the field to give themselves a chance there in that moment. That's a man that's got a resiliency to him and a tough-minded approach. Just one of the reasons that I ride with Sam, and that I do have faith in him, both in the here and now and in the long term, to be the quarterback to take us to the promised land. Because that's something that's a calculable skill within a quarterback, and there's not all those guys just have that every guy you go pick up. And you might find a guy that has all the talent in the world, but in those big moments, when times start going rough, that they do then shrink up, that they do then basically have no chance of turning it around on that day. They need to be basically hot on the day to be their best. Sam's the kind of guy to me that'll find a way a little bit in the way he goes about it. You know, he's gritty, he's grindy, he gets after it. I love that spirit. DeLevy, I appreciate you too, and much love out to you. Dogzilla, Brian Myers, double time over, Mark Sanchez. Like, you guys are just crazy with these just kind donations. I thank you so much for that. Feed me more, Seahawks. Thank you for the $5. Appreciate you as well. You know I love you, B, but just last year you were thinking of retiring. Your words your words Cancun, and a year later we're the -- seed. Oh, how time flies. Yeah, I definitely got into, that's part of what I love about this year as well, is that just turning over as we got to the draft last year, and what it's going to take in doing this channel, and where things were getting at in some of the narrative. And offseason got painful. It did. Between some of the draft picks that were there that the fan base didn't like, that I wasn't in love with, and between some of the discourse that was existing in the chat at that time, there were some things that were kind of going a little bit sideways, and it did make me have to kind of readjust the lens a little bit and recalculate how we do this stuff and how I do this stuff. I need to adjust and change as well at times in my approach. And I think I found a key adjustment there that was a thing that's going to allow me to be able to, find, as I say, that kind of sweet spot to doing this channel in the right way. But it's not always easy, especially when that stuff can kind of go like that. But yeah, time flies, and a great year can heal all wounds, I guess, out there, Femi, right? Right? I was just a little annoyed after the draft last year as much as anything else. Lucky, thank you for the $5 donation, Lucky. And thank you for the double donation, man. You dropped a big one on the above, too, as well. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. He says the Rams fired their special teams coordinator after Thursday night's loss. So hopefully that will significantly improve. Rams versus Seahawks championship game. I would love to see it, Lucky. I think that a third opportunity to kind of decide this thing once and for all, especially for the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, is not the worst of fates, right? We're talking about cinematic, or we're talking about storybook. I mean, somebody's storybook's getting told at that point. Not that would be an interesting kind of, end of a Super Bowl run to bust you on through, right? And I'll tell you, part of the thing, Lucky, that made 2013 special was getting the Super Bowl is great. You take down one of the greatest offenses of all time in Peyton Manning, but it's also who you had to take down in what was maybe the Super Bowl of that year, the San Francisco 49ers in the championship game. And wouldn't surprise me as well as we were to come to find that would be the kind of de facto true Super Bowl that point of the season. But I could see it coming down to that. You never know with a change of special teams approach, if that can kind of be a kick in the pants and help things out in that way. It is possible. I mean, some of the special team stuff comes from where you guys have been out with the kicker, and it was kind of weird hearing Jake talk about the situations that led to Fossil leaving, because from the outside, Lucky looking in, really had an appreciation for Fossil with the Rams, where there would be those bad Ram teams there with Fisher, but Fossil would be holding it down. And I think he had like one game that he literally beat the Seahawks on like a trick play on the kick. And Jake was saying there was one time he called a trick play and McVay didn't sign off on it. And that made McVay fire him. And since then they've been kind of middle of the road with it. I'd go back and make a run at Fossil. I'd be like, let's bring you back, man. I still got a lot of respect for him. But we'll see if it does make a difference on that. It's kind of hard this late in the season because you're just having a guy you elevate at that point. You're not able to go out there and go actually find like the best candidate. You'll probably go out there and look to find this offseason. But you also do wonder a little bit too with Lucky being so good defensively, so good offensively. It is that really only one vulnerability that does really exist on that team. Is not only you guys good offensively and defensively, but you're, solid throughout. There's not really weaknesses. There's not weakness in the offensive line. There's not really weakness in the defensive line. There's not really weaknesses. I don't think this cornerbacks in the secondary have a lot of star power, but certainly once you get Quentin Late back there, it's solid. At the very least, you'd apply that across the board. Receiving solid, tight ends solid. So, that'll be the interesting part there. There have been some really good teams in NFL history recently that have gotten to the playoffs. The most brazen example of this, of course, is the Chargers, who one year had the best offense and the best defense in the NFL, but their special teams unit completely sunk their whole season. Packers had a year like this a couple of years ago as well. So it's also was one that problematic during the season. It's hard for it to not become and remain problematic, kind of during the year, during the playoffs. But maybe they've got a solution, Lucky. Maybe there's a thing where that guy was doing some stuff that they just didn't agree with, and they're bringing somebody in there that's got a good little counter to it now. And that counter can be the helpful factor. Brent Yoendo, thank you for the $10 donation. And another $5 on top of that, on top of this one, says, Jake wants us to believe a team that got hijacked by a city that's the pop culture epicenter of the world and has its stadium 50 yards away from Los Angeles NFL headquarters is the victim of rigging? Yeah, that's the part of me that just didn't add up to this with it. And it's, again, we can say two things at once with this because I don't want to trigger any, the Ram fans with this and saying that I know that stuff is, rigged on it. It's not to say that, because let's just stay to the point of what we're trying to say. Because their point is, oh, well, this was quasi rigged into their direction. The NFL during that 2-point conversion called to the commissioner's office and what do we want to have happen here? Seattle to win, Seattle to stay in this game, versus if the NFL had any sway over it, to your point in this, Brent, it would be if they were going to come in with any opinion, if they were going to come in with anything that was a part that they wanted to throw into the puzzle here. I would have thought that it would have been to allow the Rams to have a clear and clean pathway to getting the number 1 seed, especially in the hopes of protecting a guy like Stafford and how old he is versus having to play an extra game in the playoffs that he wouldn't have to necessarily play. I don't think there's rigging, though. I don't think it's a rigged thing at all. But you're right, and you point out a good point of that concept where it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, nor does it, again, make any sense when considering the 2 calls themselves, which were absolutely positively correct. They made the right call. But a good point out there, Brent, too. Brent with another $5. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. You guys are amazing as ever here on the channel. I really thank you for that. A city that just won a World Series and could only benefit from doubling up on championships. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly wouldn't hurt, right? And the other part of this too with the LA is the more championships you can indoctrinate there, the more winning you can indoctrinate there. And I think even an LA fan would acknowledge this. And that I've lived in LA. I can speak to this. So I'm not just speaking as someone who's never lived there that don't know what I'm talking about. LA has been by and large more of a Raider town than it's been known to be a Ram town. And is that some of that because the Rams got ripped away to St. Louis and that made a lot of people kind of like, or out on them? Maybe. Maybe. Did certainly the Rams ownership at that time do some shenanigans to get themselves out of town? Yeah, sure. But Kroenke did the same shenanigans to get himself back into town. But they want this to work. That's why you move 2 NFL franchises at the same time into that city. If that's not a clear indication that the NFL, beyond anything else, wants these 2 teams to work there, at the very least get one of them to work. That's the non-negotiable. One team is going to have to work there. And one way to do this is if you have a team that's going to be on the winning side more often than not, and actually giving the team, fans that are a little bit, I'm not saying fair weather, just that it's kind of like a new fan base you're trying to invigorate, and that doesn't happen overnight. And it takes a little bit. But again, coming back to, I'm not trying to say there's been LA's gotten, that thing. That may or may not be the case. Doesn't really matter to me at this point with it, but just that they certainly can't be the first team that comes out there, squawking, pulling 2 random plays from a football game. Not even plays like I did with that Witherspoon play. That's the end of the game. That's at the end of the game. You get that stop and that's it. You can go put that thing to rest. It's like, it's the timing of these plays as well as to the calls themselves and when they're happening. It's the Saints PI at the end of the game that takes away their chances at that point, removes it for the Rams. It's the Logan Wilson legal contact penalty out there in the secondary in the Rams, Bengals Super Bowl, at the end of the game. It's these highly, not just the calls going, but the moments that they're choosing is also a bit of the factor. And yeah, not really brought in a point, but I agree with you, Brent. It doesn't add up when the more you kind of try to unpack that one, if that's really what we're trying to say there. I agree. Rockman says Kittle, I think, screwed up his ankle or Achilles. It's kind of a weird situation because it was really awkward looking on the field when he ran, and then he was out, and he's going to kind of tough it out, I guess, but it does not look like it's 100%. Mile High says, go Denver. What's up, Mile High? Joe Smith, I also heard this. The Niners are 0-4, 4 losses following a game where CMC has at least 27 carries. Christian McCaffrey had 27 carries on Monday Night Football. Not definitive, of course, but interesting nonetheless. Boy, Kyle Shanahan does not know how. Load management is not a term that exists in Kyle Shanahan's vernacular. There is no way McCaffrey's got anything else after this year, is there? I mean, he's already got a very low yard per carry average this season. I don't know, right? Like that's a lot of carries for a game that you won pretty convincingly. Interesting stat, though. It says, no, seriously, Brandon, I thought you got the better of the debate with Crybaby Jake. I appreciate that. And I've got respect for Jake, man. I know I went hard on him last night with it, but I do definitely have a lot of respect for him, a lot of love for Jake. He's a good guy. There's just a difference of football opinion a little bit there. And I was in a passionate place last night, so I was feeling feisty. Brian says, another casual that thinks all Sam's difficulties at the end of the year last year were all on him. Oh, we got somebody in the chat saying that. Yeah. Mile High's feeling good. He says, Broncos win the chip this year. Got a good team, Mile High. Guys been flying under the radar. Flying under the radar. Brian says the update today on Kittle was a low mid ankle sprain, did not practice, but is day-to-day whether he'll play in Chicago game or not. Boy, they really do, I think, need it for that game. But that's a tough one to get over the top of, especially because he's had a good number of those kind of lower leg injuries that are kind of all in that same territory. Probably not the first time he's had an ankle sprain on it. Jason says, remember the first Super Bowl with Steelers? No, that was the worst of bad refs. Don't even from Jake Boy. Yeah, if I showed Jake that Super Bowl, I think that he'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. That was one that was crazy. It's definitely Super Bowl contenders, mile high. Why not, you guys? You know, it's wide open out there in the AFC this year. We're now seeing Seahawks fans have been overly critical of quarterbacks for a while, even toward the end of Wilson's time here. A little bit. I think that what happens to me and I think it's not just a Hawk fan thing too, or an City. I think just in general, what you get is there's a little bit of a thinking at times of the quarterback sort of carries all versus the supporting factors and how they help a quarterback fly or how they force a quarterback to sink. And that we've gotten out of that era of the two of the GOAT quarterbacks in the sport in Brady and Mahomes. And that's really made this a reinforced point for a lot of people that already naturally thought this. But I certainly think that it has been hardwired in pretty hard there at this point. And certainly, I would say Russell got a lot of benefit of the doubt for the most part, and that a lot of the critiques that were there with him at the end were fairly valid critiques, both at the time and in retrospect. I think with the Geno and the Sam stuff at times, it was a little bit more, with Geno's case, like he wasn't Russ. So like nobody was going to sign up for that. In Sam's case, it was kind of like, wasn't exciting enough. So different reasons, but the point stands. Thomas says the fact Jake pointed out the Hail Mary that happened in 2012 and some stupid crap that happened in 2023 with the Rams, when 100% truth is that the Rams get favorable treatment from the NFL. Yeah, I thought that was fresh bringing up the Hail Mary. That was pretty funny on that one. Which, like, let's get into that play. Yeah, it's like I might do a video on that play one day because I got feelings on that. Thomas says week 11 last Thursday talk should be about how good both teams are and what game 3 will be like, but will Seahawks paid refs when the NFL Seattle went over the Rams? Agreed. I did help drive that a little bit last night, so it was a little bit of me too. Thomas says, I got frustrated because Jake believes Rams are way better, but to say they are way better is BS. Because Jake believes Rams are better, but to say they're way better is BS. It's not like both games were decided by 3 points. Yeah, I mean, they're two teams that are very close to each other. They've been some odd aspects to both two games, but the bottom line is that there's not a wide difference here. And the thing about that within the way Jake packages that a little bit is that he said that he's thought the Rams and the Seahawks are by far the best teams in the NFL. So if he thinks that they're way better than us, then not only is they by far the best team in the NFL, this is like one of the best all-time teams ever, is kind of what he's intimating a little bit there. I don't know if I would say that about this Rams team. I think they're good. Well, Tribe says Jake's right. The 2-point conversion reversal was beyond rigged. Not just rigged, but beyond the rigging. That's almost like they pre-planned it. Lucky says, here's my take on this. Seahawks should have won the first game and they played the Rams and didn't. But the second time, the Rams should have won, but didn't. So those are the top 2 teams in the league right now. I think that that's pretty airtight logic, Lucky. And you heard me saying it just a few minutes ago. So, I'm not just pulling this out because you just said it, but that's exactly echoing my thought process as well on the outlook of this. Some of this that gets lost in this is seeming like you got to take away from one team to the other. And to me, it's not. It's to say, no, these are 2 grade A teams, stack up really well up against each other. And it's probably going to take a third matchup to decide what is what. What the F is wrong with DK? Geez, man. I don't know, man. I've excused a lot of his behavior at the task, but as it got down to the end of the season last year, especially, and some of the stuff that had gone on, it got harder and harder. There's a lack of control there that needs to be there. And it sounds like he potentially could have cost himself tens of millions of dollars with this little stunt. So now it's not just a 15-yard penalty that he doesn't care about. It's a little bit more than that. Merry Christmas, Space. Good to see you in the house. Lou, happy holidays. How you doing, Lou? Go Hawks. That's right. Brian, please hit that like button if you can for me, please, folks. I really do appreciate it. I do. Joe says, even if the 2-point conversion was fixed, which it's not, had the Rams picked up the ball, it would never have been an issue. So the fixing never took it out of the Rams' control, did it? It's the other part of the thing that the Rams fans haven't talked about, and I tried to say this to Jake last night, and he just kind of waved his hand at me at it, but it's like Charbonnet said directly after the game that part of picking up the ball has to do with Mike Macdonald as a coaching point, that if there's ever a loose ball on the field, you go and pick it up. And Mike teaches that. Why? Because he's anticipating this type of play? No, because it's a good thing to be away with possession at the end of a play with the ball in your hand, if there is that play, because you never know. Did McVay make that a similar coaching point to his players? I don't think he did. Does that maybe a contributing factor in that moment to Charbonnet going and getting that there versus the Rams not? Maybe. I think so. Especially because Charbonnet didn't say it 3 days later after he had a lot of time to think about it. He's just finishing up the game. He's sweating. He's taking off his pads. He's getting asked about the play, and he's like, here's this. You know, it's kind of just off the cuff of the moment there for me. But it's a good point. R. Scott says, Seattle did what they had to do for most of the season. End of story. Damn right. Damn right. Boo. Hawks Nest, are you concerned about the Panthers' strong run game after the Rams gashed us last week? Always going to be concerned a little bit with a team that does have does a fairly decent job of running the football. When you're going to be going up against our lighter boxes, because that's how we're going to run it every week. Mike Macdonald's talked about we're going to be who we are. They're not really going to change this to what we've seen throughout the defensively here this season, which is more of the stack box looks at, or at least the base fronts from defenses has been the counter to the 12 personnel stuff. Seattle doesn't do that. So that's always going to put you in a place of that you're a little worried about that, especially with how Carolina has a fairly strong offensive line and both how they run block and a couple backs that can do some different style of damages to you. It is a concern. I might counter a little bit to the initial point here that we got gashed in the run game. There was certainly a commitment from the Rams in this game to run the ball, but Kyron Williams had 23 carries for 70 yards. Blake Corum had 14 carries for 48 yards. They averaged 3.2 yards per carry. So I guess I would just say, boo, if we're talking about if we did what we did in this last game, as far as the ground game goes, to limiting the Carolina Panthers to a 3.2 yard per carry average, you will win this football game. They're not going to throw for some 450 yards around that with Bryce Young like Stafford was able to do. So they did a good job of getting positive runs to the Rams, boo. Like, they did a good job of at least getting usually the 3 yards kind of plays. But they never broke a longer run than 9 yards on the day. So it was also one that wasn't really like, taking you down. It was that chipping away. It was that nibbling kind of rushing attack. And if you got a Stafford guy that can throw the ball around the nibbles, yeah, that's scary. I got Bryce Young throwing around the nibbles. I feel like I can find a way to kind of answer that a little bit, but it is a concern. Daniel says, I am ready to move on from talking about the Ram fans whining, even if the Ram fans aren't done whining. On to the Panthers. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. I guess that's one way of looking at it. Lou says Rams blew the game. They had 3 and 3 outs in the fourth quarter. They had their chances. They didn't get it. No, they did not, Lou. They had their chances. It's one of the things I point to. It's like, rather than getting caught up on these play calls, let's get caught up on some of the specific reasons as to why you lost this game, right? 5 times you crossed midfield and you only came away with field goal attempts, no touchdowns. 14 yards of penalty difference doesn't exactly point to there being a great rigging in place. 3 and outs in the fourth quarter with the game on the line. Fourth quarter, Seahawks pass rush got home when you were able to neutralize both the pass rush and the blitz early on in the game. Seattle went for 2 when you decided to go for 1. All these were opportunities. Thomas, what lost me is that the Rams had 5 minutes left in the game before OT. It wasn't like it was the end of the game. They had a chance to win, but say Rams near. Kind of muddled up what you said there at the end, but I think I get what you're saying. And back to the point, plenty of chances there. D Nugget in the house. How you doing, D Nugget? What's up? What's up? Trey says Seahawks are frauds. Sam Darnold is way better with the Vikings than he is on the Seahawks. I mean, we're pretty happy with them over here, man. So pretty good year for us here in Seattle as far as Darnold's concerned. Projected to throw for almost 4,200 yards, almost 9 yards an attempt, 27 touchdown passes, over 100 quarterback rating. I mean, that's pretty damn close to the season he put up last year with the Vikes. Pretty good. Chat's cracking me up. Ryan says Panthers get pounded. Let's go. I definitely think we can get after them in the run game. Phoebe says we finally got the Angry Murph Pro Bowl tweet. Let's go. Let's go. Joe says, from the NFL perspective, we're like a lonely outpost in the Pacific Northwest. For East Coasters, there's nothing west of Mississippi. We might as well be in Siberia. LA market more important than Seattle market. That's very true. That is true. I got nothing to add. Brent says, I personally always enjoyed the hype of DK and his possibilities more than I ever liked him. Definitely was always the upside you got tantalized by him, what he could bring. And he brought a floor with him that was good too, but there was always that there's more here. There's more here. I'm telling you, there's more here. And just never quite got to that spot, including the settling down of the emotions, right? Being out of control at times. Still dreaming. It's got a great donation as far as the note on top of thank you for the $10 donation drop. Still dreaming. He says, keep the dreaming alive. Go Hawks. Hey, the dream is alive. This is possible. This is a real thing. You've only been to 13 wins twice in your history. You've never been to 14 wins. So putting this in historical perspective, understanding the weight that could carry if you get that number 1 seed, knowing the wide open nature of the NFL this year, why not us? Why not us still dreaming? Go Hawks, brother. Thank you for the $10 donation, and feels good. Feels damn good. Damn good. Merry Christmas, man. Brent with another $10 donation. Thank you, Brent, for all your donos. It's very kind of you, brother. Very, very kind of you. He says the viral footage of Sharps picking up that ball as well as Hall taking that step are all in slow-mo. Full speed alone dismantles a lot of the narratives of accident or not. It's true. That's the other thing we didn't even get into last night on this, which was that Jake was very much of, well, the whistle got blown so the defensive player stopped doing anything. But Sharps is the guy that is the prime position to still go pick up the ball, whether there's a whistle or not. It doesn't just, you can see he's the first one kind of on the board closest to the ball after it lands off the hands of the defender. He's the one in closest proximity to get it. This is to your point on if you're not playing it slow motion and you just watch Charbonnet on the play, it's boom, boom, and he's right there to pick it up. So because the whistle blows, does he even slow down a little bit there? Yeah, but was he still the lead dog there to go pick up the ball? 100%. And the Derek Hall one to me is just a ridiculous one. These players have such short careers. You find them 7 ways for Sunday if they don't have their helmet in the right position on a tackle. Now you're going to tell me what's in a guy's heart? Now you're going to tell me what's in a guy's heart who's never done anything as far as egregious to this line ever before, that's ever been known to have somehow that kind of reputation? It's a big leap by the NFL here, especially at this time of year when these games matter, when the depth matters, when you need your guys out there, all your horses. I thought that this was definitely a reactive move by the NFL. It's like what they do with the finding of these players, where there's some egregious stuff they do because they have the power and they control to do so. And the players were stupid in a lot of ways for giving him this amount of control to be able to do this stuff, as the union did. But I don't think that Hall did that purposely at all. I've watched it over and over again. I think his other foot got pinned. Mike Macdonald talked about this, said the very same thing in the press conference. Foot got pinned, tried to bring down his other foot. You got a 320-pound man that's a wide body there right below you. There's not a lot of green grass there to put your foot down as your other foot's been pinned. It's a thing that, again, happens in a bang-bang moment. Bang, 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 whoa. All that happens like that. You show it slow motion, and it's like, bang, look at him thinking and looking through stuff. And then he's looking down there, and now he's going to bring up his foot, and he's going to think about it. It's like, come on. It didn't play out like that. But hopefully that just means we got to frustrate Derek Hall for the Niner game. Brent, I guess that's the only thing I can hope on that. So, yeah, I don't get the NFL. That was a random one, and kind of silly by the NFL, but good points all around on your part. And thank you for all the support today, man. Appreciate you, brother. Tyrone says Panthers going to run all over them Seahawks. Y'all can't stop us. Y'all can't stop us. We shall see, man. Looking forward to this matchup. Ornacity says, thank you for being you, Brando. I appreciate your coverage and hope you're doing well personally. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Merry Christmas to you and your family as well, Ornacity. Another man who's been long time part of this community with it. See a lot of my familiar names here in the chat, from the hand grenades and space to Joe out there and Brian. And it always warms my heart seeing familiar names on in here. I know there's a lot of discussion we have with a lot of different people, but I do remember you guys, even in sometimes tacit ways on stuff. But thank you as well, man. I love what I get to do, and I'm really blessed and honored. You see the contributions and all the support you guys throw my way just in this show alone, but I saw it last night. We had over 100 donations to the round table. The support I've gotten from this community and this fan base from day one of doing this channel is second to none. And it is little to say about me individually, and it's much more to say about you guys in the Pacific Northwest as a community. Why I love this community, why I love this state, why I love the people in this state, because this is the kindness and the way that we go about who we are and how we're wired, because it's a big country, and a lot of times they like to get that narrative out there that we're all the same, but there are different communities, different regions, different places that operate in certain different ways, and the kindness angle of it and the supporting angle of it with the Northwest is, as players will often tell you, second to none from what you get in other parts of the country. They get to feel that from the love and fan base in the stadium, and I get to feel it every time I get to go live. It's a real pleasure to do this, man. Real pleasure. Brian's confident in this Panthers game. He says Hawks by double digits. Double digits. I love the confidence. Rise says, feel like Darnold really showed he can hang in with the big team. Is pretty difficult to make the plays he did versus the Rams in such a tough situation at the Hawks Nest. Beautifully put, Jumanji. Beautifully put. And I can't add a lot to that other than that. I think that, Sam, it's very fair to say coming in that Rams game that maybe it's just one team, but it's one team that's had his number, one team that he's performed fairly poorly against recently, and you kind of need to prove that you can go after this team and take them down. If after all you can't get through the Rams, how are you going to get to the Super Bowl? And to do that in that situation, where there, as I like to say, the no room for error type of situation. It's one, you got to drive down late and get the score. Yeah, we still got our 3 timeouts. There's still time on the clock. It's another thing when there is no more. They scored a touchdown. You need a touchdown. And you look at that final drive, you have a little run here for a couple yards, a little run there for a couple yards, but you're throwing the ball to make it happen. And that final exclamation point of a play where you go to your fourth read on a play for a guy that has that narrative surrounding him of being he just stares down targets. He just stares down. Well, to have the biggest moment of the game, of the season, find you with you going through 4 separate reads on the play to get down to the check down. That's a hell of an exclamation point. Fan mind energy is real. That's why we like this game. Hell yeah, man. That's what I say. You got to let fans fan how they want, because that's the part we want to embrace. You can't say, I want you fanatical. I want you to care. I want you to be all in, and then try to have them sort of get checked on that at the same point in time, right? Jersey says, I believe we're going to have a strong run game come the playoffs. I'll tell you this, if it's having a strong running game in the playoffs is as much about your commitment throughout the course of the season to keep hammering at it and to keep working on it, whether there's success there or not. The Seattle Seahawks have done that and have done that in every single game this year. I'm very hard pressed. Maybe the first Rams game would be the one game I might point to. But outside of that, they've done such a great job of staying committed and running that ball, and whether it's good or not. And I'd like to believe that would be the case of that jersey, at least as far as historically speaking, that those teams that do stay committed do tend to find a way to break through eventually and find, some amount of consistency there within that run game. And when you do look at the back half of the schedule, by and large, and how we've run the ball and our success rate in our runs, how consistent much more it's been from the first half, I think it has been improved. Maybe not like mightily, but just there's been a little bit of an uptick there. Jason said, well, I got to get ready for Midnight Mass. Go Hawks. Peace out. WNGHAF. I don't know what that means, but yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tyrone, now, man, 3 tutties. He's going to throw 3 tutties, Tyrone. Come on. Joe said, I'll say this about DK. When he lost the Niners and he was PO'd, throwing a fit on the field, I did not like that. Felt like he was the only one who really cared at that point. Hitting at fans not okay. Yeah, it's where there's a lot of the time some excuse for DK and some of the emotions. I felt like, I think if you're talking about that Niner game too, I think that was the one where there's a lot of stuff there with it. And it's a complicated situation. I think the DK could have removed some of this though by, you go to the Steelers now, you're getting into this age, you got to kind of have that, okay, I got to be under control in these moments. I think he's also had a couple of moments in the season that have been kind of DK-like. I know he plays a lot of motion, but it's like you're getting old enough in age now where you can't cost your team. And this is the greatest of costs for the Steelers. Trying to get in the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers trying to have that one last gasp and get carried away like that. It's like, it's tough. Gary says, visualize a white sphere of love around the stadium, enveloping our players, connecting them, and gently screening out the opposition's fan energy. It works. We will do something. We'll do some visualization drills before the playoff game this year, Gary. That's a great idea. Let's do it. Let's do it. And we'll do a little bit of Panther beat visualization here as the stream winds up tonight. Brent says he just decided unprecedented malice within the time it took him to put his foot down. Yeah, I agreed. It's like, come on. This isn't Ndamukong Suh, right? Like, Femi Hawks Nest. Sharps wasn't even near it. He tried to find the ball for 3 seconds before he grabbed it. I watched the play. Many times Sharp would have got it anyway. Agreed. That's my thinking on it too. Watching it a couple times, I think he was the nearest guy to the ball. This whole thing with I get it's like weird and Ram fans are like, I've never seen a play like that before. I get the initial shock of that never happened. I get the initial first day of that sucked. That thing happened. That was so weird. But as you have a couple days to really get understanding, and we've all looked at the rules, right? We've all looked at the fact that it's not a fumble. Ram fans keep referring to it as a fumble. Because it's a live ball does not make it a fumble. It's a backwards pass, which has different rules applied to the playbook than fumbles do. You can say, well, I want the same rules to, well, okay, you're going to do that in retrospect to a play that then fits to work in your favor. If it was on the other shoe, would you be saying the same thing? Probably not. And at the heart of why they have reviews automatically reviewed for 2-point conversions is to make sure they get the call freaking right. That's the whole purpose of it. Another thing Jake didn't, I don't think Jake was aware of last night coming into it. I brought it up and I don't think he even acknowledged that he was aware of it, that All two-point attempts are automatically reviewed. All of them. All. Sometimes there's something there worth reviewing in what they're looking at, and sometimes there's nothing there. So I agree. Darren says, it's keep pounding, all on the Hawks nest. We shall see. We shall see. I love your confidence, though, man. I love your confidence. We're going to come in hungry. Senior Tiny Baby Goats with a $20 donation.
Oh, Billy.
Oh, my gosh, Billy Goats. Thank you for the nice donation there with the $20 drop. Very kind of you. He says, thanks for the copious amounts of content today. Merry Christmas. Go Hawks. Well, I'm going to be down and up a little bit of the old Maker's Mark and eggnog here. Mother's home recipe tomorrow, so there ain't no way I'm going to be doing any content creation over the next 2 days after this. Got to get in while the getting's good, senior. You know what I mean? It's Christmas prep time after this. You know what I mean? But thank you. It's been a lot of fun today. I had a great time with Brendan early on today and breaking down this game with the Panthers and kind of trying to unpack them. They're a little bit of a mystery box. You know, it's a little bit of a Forrest Gump box of chocolates. You know, you never know what you're going to get. That's how they are a little bit. That makes it harder to preview them as a team in general terms. But thank you for all of your support through the years as well, Baby Goats. Not the first time you dropped a big old dono here on this side of it. Really appreciate you for that, man. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Hopefully having a great one. And go Hawks, man. Go Hawks. Appreciate you. Oh, Nelly, here comes Space with a big old $50 donation. Thank you, Space. Let's go, Space. Oh, man, thank you so much for that. Another one of my OGs in the channel. We've had people here for so many years, and, the stream's not right, Space, if I don't see your username in there. I'm going to say that right now. If I don't see Space in there on the username front, him in the chat, piping off, going off a little bit, I'm like, where's Space? We got to get where's Space back in on this. But Space coming in with a big old $50 donation. Thank you for that, Space. I really appreciate you for that. You are unbelievable as well of all of your support through the years. Just amazing, man. Amazing. As well as being a member of this channel. You are the best. I appreciate you for that. Merry Christmas, he says, Brandon. Well, Merry Christmas to you. I appreciate you and everything you do for the fan base. Go Hawks. We got the best fan base in the world, in my opinion. And am I biased? You better believe I'm biased. But if I had a lifetime and multiple decades to make this assessment, you bet I have. I've watched us launch earthquakes. I've watched us create the wave. I've watched us set decibel records in the stadium and force the NFL to create penalties to try to quiet us down, us as a raucous group. I've seen that noise carry over to the new stadium. I've seen us reaching to the heights of heights over the last 25 years with 3 Super Bowl appearances. Gotten to watch all of this and this fan base be so tremendous all the way around and how they appreciated it. Millions strong out there on the Super Bowl ticker tape parade, showing you how hungry they were for that championship and the standard that they have right now. Because though it can sometimes be infuriating, though it can be sometimes frustrating, there's no doubting that this is a fan base that's not merely content to find its way into the playoffs, and that'll be good enough for them. To be a little bit better than average, and that'll be good enough for them. It's a fan base that's gotten hungry for that championship, that is the standard that they are seeking to attain and get to. And that's just that final part about it that I just so very much love. Because that's what we're here for. It's great to be entertained. It's great to have a good team. But you want your team, whether they get to the mountaintop or not, you want them truly in that pursuit, trying to go get those Super Bowls. And how many teams can we look at in the course of this NFL and go, that's not a team that's serious. It's not a team that's truly serious about getting Super Bowls. In fact, it's kind of an unserious organization if we're going to get real with it. But this is an amazing fan base, an amount of support that I never thought was possible. I only had to be a couple of years into doing this before I could make the changeover to doing this full time because of that tremendous support from this fan base. And as I say often, I don't know if I deserve it, these big $50 or $20 donations or all the donations you guys dropped today. I don't know if I deserve it in doing this, but I got the greatest job in the world. And whether you guys may know or not of me appreciating it, it's very well It's very well clear to me every day I get up that I'm really blessed to be able to do this. And it's a special circumstance, and it's part of what gives me the juice to do it. I love doing it still, I absolutely do, but it's also just the fact that this is such an amazing opportunity to be able to get to do this. And I want to maximize it for as long as I'm able to do this to the utmost in the neighborhood of that, because it's just so much fun with you guys to be able to go through this experience. We're all collectively together on it. And that's just something I wasn't anticipating walking in when I created this channel, Space. I was not anticipating that sense of community that we'd have out here. It's been so cool. But Merry Christmas to you, man. Thank you for the big $50 drop. You're amazing, bro. Appreciate you riding with me since almost day one over here on this channel. And here's the future, man. Here's to a wonderful 2026. We're heading to the Senior Bowl. Going to be going out there with Bryce Coots and Dan Viennes. We're going to go get an Airbnb and cover all the Senior Bowl action over there. We got roundtable sports cooking up. Things are really, really, really getting hot, and you guys are here with me every step of the way. It's so wonderful. So wonderful. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate you, Space. You are awesome. Awesome. Matthew, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, going to the Panthers game on Sunday. Feels like the Seahawks will win a close one, but also Carolina can't get much pressure. Feels like Sam eats. Sam's got to make sure that he is well aware of the fact that this Carolina Panther team is one that does not blitz a lot and does not tend to create a lot of pressure as well, to your point. And that means that Sam's going to have some time to, if I'm walking in and I'm Sam and I'm thinking about this game, it's to say, okay, I go up against a hyper blitz team like the Falcons or like the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to probably have to get to my first read and be more about the day of me getting to the first read and more about me being pre-snap smart, and that I'm not going to have the time in the pocket to be able to go 1, 2, 3. This is going to be a game with that pass rush of the Panthers where Sam should have an opportunity to go through the 1, 2, 3. This should be a game from Kubiak's standpoint where he should have an opportunity to do some 7-step drops. And let's see if we can get Shaheed to take the top off the defense for the first time truly. There should be a couple of those chances here to do that, to your point, Matthew. And it does stand out as well as that they're not necessarily particularly good at stopping the run either on that side of it. So you can kind of get after him in a couple of different ways there. And I would expect that we will do so. So Sam doesn't have to feel like he's got to be under the same kind of pressure fronts he's dealt with at times from other teams this year, be it Houston, be it the Rams on a couple of those times, be it the Minnesota Vikings team, be it some of those teams that are highly blitzed and like to stack the box a lot. This is a team that likes to go with light boxes in addition to that. So Sam's going to walk up there. He's going to see 4-man fronts, or he's going to see a base defense. He's not going to see a lot of necessarily extra safeties down there in the box. You'll see a lot of too high shell out there on that side. And then he's going to have time in the pocket off of that pre-snap look to determine where he needs to go with the ball. Those are going to be inherently a part of what he gets to have this upcoming Sunday, and how he can anticipate that in advance. Probably going to be a big determiner on his success and what he can get done in this game from the back of that. Thank you, though, Matthew. Well said on your part. I also see this as being a close one, 21-19. I think it's going to be a little bit down the line. Brendan did bring up one point that could be a bit of a mitigating factor in this game, being that this is not a game that really matters that much for the Panthers as far as really their positioning is concerned. They're kind of locked in where they're at seeding-wise. It's really all about the division at this point. The wild card's not in play. So it's like, get the division or don't. And the division's really going to ride upon whether this game's won or not next week's game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that they've got to go get that win next week to get the division. So Brandon brought up a good point, which is that if you've got guys that are on that injury line, and Ikem Ekawanu or Teteroa McMillan, who didn't practice on Wednesday, do you try to save those guys for the final game of the year when you really do truly need them? Do you mitigate and try to, not mitigate, but do you try to balance the snap counts a little bit from your defensive linemen, and maybe have certain defensive linemen playing in this game a little bit more than you would normally because you're taking some of Derek Brown's snaps off so that he's better and more prepared for the Tampa Bay game in another week? Something that could be a bit of a factor on this one and how it all plays out, because if I'm in Canales' spot and this game doesn't really matter when it's all said and done to the bottom line of having my team ready for Tampa Bay and having my team most ready to be able to get in the playoffs to play at their strongest, trying to kind of go for broke in this game and do all I possibly can to get the dub kind of goes counter to that a little bit from my perspective, just a little bit. Good points though. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Look out. Look out. We've got another big, huge huge 200. I said a $200 donation from me back in the house. Let's go, me. Let's go, me. Thank you so much. Me dropped a $500 drop just a couple days ago over here on this channel. A person of their word, they dropped. They said, hey, if you do the hat bet, we'll drop a 500. If Seattle wins, we won. Drop that $500 in the chat a couple days ago. Coming back in with a $200 drop. $200. Me, you are absolutely incredible. Incredible, second to none. Kept the lights on this off season as things get a little slow and people are out on summer vacation. You were right there rocking with us, dropping those $100 drops almost on a daily basis over here. Coming in with another $200. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you. It says, hey, B, wanted to stop by, wish you and our fellow 12s a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday. I'm kind of a Scrooge, but in the spirit of giving, here you go, brother. As always, go Hawks. Well, I do hope you have a great Christmas out there. Thank you for your spirit of giving, which, as I say, second to none. You've dropped so many big, huge donations here this last year and last couple of years here onto this channel, and your support of this channel. Really amazing. As I say, thank you is just, it's not enough. I don't want to say that too much, but it really is enough. How do you get beyond thank you when it's this kind of support that you guys put in my back in this way? Me helping to fund that Senior Bowl trip and get that thing going right. I hope it's a good Christmas for you with the Scrooge reference there. So I hope it's not a tough one, and that you are having a good Christmas and able to get around and be around some family, friends, and have that connectivity. If you're out there, folks, and you are finding yourself a little bit in position of, not necessarily having the family close by. I've been there in recent years. I get to be down here now with my family here, but I've been in that pickle before. And if you do, try to reach out to friends and family. It's that time of year. It's good to hear a voice. It's good to hear, people along that stretch that, love and care for you. And just to be reminded of that this time of year, because it is very important. I really, really thank you for all of your support through this year. As I said, through the off season, when times get lean and tough, you came in with those big old donos and kept us able to keep running and going through on this off season in that way. It's this support, folks, that allows me to do what I get to do here above all else. And from the bottom of my heart, especially during this Christmas year, with you guys being so given throughout the year, and then extra especially giving now here in this Christmas holiday, me, thank you. You guys are amazing as a fan base. Nobody out there gets this kind of love in that way. And it's not an indictment of me or something necessarily I'm doing. It's really about your guys' giving and how kind you guys are out there as much as anything else. It's not me as the driving force there. It's you guys, the driving force there on that. And I can only shake my head and smile and tip my cap to you guys and go, thank you. And it is the fuel to the fire. It's the passion and the fuel to this fire, knowing I got you guys in my back. How can I not get up every day and be thinking about what I can be doing next to try to, push this channel forward and keep this thing, firing on all pistons and going as hard as we possibly can. Merry Christmas, me. Go Hawks, as always. Let's get it this week. Let's keep these good times going. Let's get in the playoffs. Let's go get this Super Bowl and I'm going to have us all smiling extra, extra wide here into the new year. Thank you, though, man. You just unbelievable. Your support, unbelievable. $500 drop the other day, another $200 today. Just amazing, amazing support. You guys are just, thank you so much. So much. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a hell of a night, as they would say. I think that's how it goes, right? With Scrooge, right? That's how it goes. Hand grenade. See you later, B. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, ma'am. Rise as well as that. Felt we both had our opportunities this time around. We capitalized more, but still overall very well done to both teams. The Rams fought hard. We just fought harder. Hawks Nest. Yeah, agreed, Rise. Agreed. Can't add anything to it other than I just 100% agreed. I don't think either team's got anything to feel necessarily bad about. I know the Rams fired their special teams guy, and I get that, where it's been a kind of a season long. There's been some issues there, but I think both of these teams fought their ass off, and Rams had a great game plan. And when I walked away from it going, man, they gave us their best punch. We gave them their best punch. We got away with it with the 1 point win. And we face a third time. It's probably going to be another tight battle down the line on that one too. Seahawks Daddy, great news from Seahawks practice. Only 2 players missed time, Kobe Bryant and Charles Cross. Indeed. and both of those were to be kind of expected. They haven't seen Kobe put on the IR yet, which may be a good indicator that they're going to try to just keep him floating and going and see if he can kind of fight through this injury a little bit, Seahawks daddy. But good news. Brian says, now I'm going to try to spend the rest of the night trying to figure out what that stands for. Amen. Chance says, let's go, baby slinging Sam. Gonna show the haters. Let's go. Let's go. Joe says, we actually share some interesting history of Panthers. Seattle's 11-5 all time against Carolina, but I do remember Carolina beating us on their way to the Super Bowl circa 2015. That's right. I call that the cleat game because we didn't have the right cleats in that game. Players were slipping and sliding in the first half, changed the cleats the second half, and it did get better, but then you were behind the 8 ball at that point. That one frustrated me because I'm like, why didn't we have our cleats right and ready for that game? Why wouldn't you have been out on the field to test that stuff out, waiting for live action? You know, and the Panthers totally knew the right cleats to have, like they were getting firm footing. But I remember that game. Almost pulled it out. Almost one of the great Russell Wilson comebacks in his history. Might have been the greatest comeback in his history if he had been able to pull it out. Fans are too obtuse to understand the rules. Oxgold, my great about the Panthers is that they blow hot and cold. At their best, they're probably slightly better than the Seahawks. At their worst, this will be a blowout. Yeah, I mean, maybe at their best, slightly better than Seattle. I think they're even footing with Seattle, maybe at their best. But like you say, they do go cold. Seattle's got a bit of that, as I was talking about at the top of the show, that feast or famine factor. It's just that we seem to be on the other end of that, where we tend to be more in the feast, especially defensively speaking, than the famine aspect of it. But there is that sort of, it is on the extremes to one way or the other, it seems like, and there's not really a middle ground. Rams House 102. Merry Christmas, y'all. Merry Christmas to you too. Shout out to Rams fans. I think it's a testament to the fact that you guys are very respectful, as well as that, look, we've had some disagreements on this whole officiating thing. There's no doubt about that. But I think that overall, everyone who's come in this chat still been very respectful about the manner they've gone about it. You know, that disagreement's going to cause some debates and some fierce debates at that. But hey, it's still been pretty cool to see that, you know, able to come in there. And that's part of that open door I want to have there, be it to the Ram fans, be it to 49er fans, be it to Cardinal fans. I want them always to feel like they can come in here, have some discussion, have some talk, and, you know, we like that. It's encouraged. Merry Christmas to you, though, Rams House, and I think we'll be seeing you guys again. WD says, Brando streams are Discord for boomers, and I love it. Go Hawks. Let's go, WD. I'll take that. I'll take that. LVB says, I don't mind waiting until Sunday for my present. Me neither. That'll be the greatest gift, won't it? Tyrone's feeling it. I love your confidence, Tyrone. I don't think it's time for us to lose, man. We're hot. We're feeling it. You guys are thinking about Tampa Bay next week already, man. You already got Tampa on the mind. Ski Nation, thank you for the $10 donation. Another one of my OGs, as well as a member of the channel. Appreciate you. Merry Christmas, man. What a game. Go Hawks. Super scared for a rematch, though. I do think the Rams got the shorter end of the stick overall, and I feel that's a bad omen for a third go. They are going to be mad. Very possible. Very possible. You're going to get them amped up, and they're going to be playing their best when you face them, to your point on that. I wouldn't push back on any of that, and I would be perfectly happy if we don't have to face them again. I would have every bit of more confidence in literally any other team that we would have to play within the NFC than I would playing the Rams. That's that part I come back to on having a very healthy level of respect for them and what they are and what they built and who they are and how good a team they are and how great a season Matt Stafford is having this season. On top of how good he's been for the Rams since he's walked in the door there. So I think everything that you say is completely on point, and hopefully we don't have to face them again. I wouldn't mind that. I think we're going to have to, and then we're going to have to conquer this beast another time to get into that show. But the good news is that the drama would be through the roof and the injury would be through the roof. And we might just get ourselves another classic game, because that's the part that really, I think, Ram fans, Seahawks fans, even if you're on the losing side of this from a Ram fan perspective, you got another classic game. You got a game that will be one of the games talked about as the game of the decade. And though you came out on the other end of it with Sam Darnold driving at the field for 7 points and a 2-point conversion, it's also a game where Stafford, at his age, throwing for 460 yards, should have been over 500 yards if you didn't have the drop problem at times from the Rams in this game. Had a great effective strategy at the front of this. Didn't have some major meltdown moment in this, other than maybe the special teams return. But that's just a bit of the part of the puzzle of play of a season where it's been a little bit tougher sledding on them for the special teams aspect. But a classic game, man. And you don't get many of those. You don't get many of those that you're going to be talking about 10 years from now about that game. Like, remember that game? And then that happened? Oh, man, that happened. Oh, yeah, that happened too. Oh, yeah, then he was and Puka had 225 yards. You remember that too? Yeah, that was a wild. We're going to look at it like that a little bit there, Ski. But thank you for the $10 donation. Well said on your part. I agree. I agree on that. Definitely going to get a very feisty Rams team on the third matchup, if there's a third matchup. True to that blue. Thank you for the $5 donation. Hey, Brandon, it's William Leonard. How you doing, William? I'm moving back to Seattle. Tomorrow after 4 years almost in Boston. Merry Christmas, 12s, and let's keep stacking scalps. Oh, yes. Yes, sir. He is referencing, I'd meant to show it here on the show today. Thank you for reminding me of that, actually. But our man Mike Macdonald's got a cool little thing going. Let me find it here. Oh, Mike, you're such a smart coach. I love this concept. So let's keep stocking scalps. And what William's talking about here is this picture right here, which is going to be, sorry, I got to William show this. So 1 second here. You got Mike Macdonald standing there. And if you can see there above Mike's left shoulder, you've got the helmets of the wins they've gotten this year stacked up. It almost looks like something from like the Predator movie when the Predator stacks up his trophies that look like spines, with the skulls. It's kind of a cool look. So stacking up wins, stacking scalps, as William was talking about here. That's what he's referencing on this. And let's keep it, man. Just 1 week at a time, William. Just keep taking business one week at a time. And you've done this so well throughout the course of this season. It's part of what's allowed you great road success, even at that 10 a.m. start time that's been so troublesome at times in the past. But just keep taking that opponent seriously. Keep locking in every week as much as you can. And now you've gotten to the home stretch. You've gotten through those dog days of training camp. You've gotten yourself through the first couple of months of the season. You've gotten through yourself to the mid part of the year. You're down in this final point. Can you finish the process? $1 million move, 10-cent finish. $1 million move, $1 million finish. Can we put that capping on this season? It's right there for the taking, and you've gone so far. You've accomplished so much in this journey. And just that ending part, don't mean it's going to be easy. But just keep stacking those wins up. Keep taking it week by week. And we just might find ourselves with what we need potentially here. If we get 5 more wins in a row, you got yourself a Super Bowl. Right? First round bye, 2 more to get to the Super Bowl, 1 game in the Super Bowl, 1 more game after that. Panthers game this week, 5-0. And the Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl champions. But congrats on getting back to Seattle, William. I will be back there at some point in my future as well at some point. I don't know when exactly, but at some point. And hopefully you're able to move to a cool area out there in Seattle. Get yourself a nice little place. Thank you, though, for the $5, man. Appreciate you for that. Chad Hart coming in with a $20 donation. Chad, that's very, very, very kind of you, man. I really appreciate you for that. He says, Merry Christmas, Brando, and all the other Seahawks fans in the chat. And don't you ever forget, go Hawks. Chad, another one of my OGs. I got so many of these guys that have been riding with me for 4, 5, 6 years, right in tow on this channel, a big time donator and contributor to this channel, member of this channel. It's part of that great support you guys throw my way that is just unbelievable. And Chad's absolutely part of it, on top of being a key part of this community as well. Chad, thank you for the $20 donation. Merry Christmas to you and yours as well. Hopefully it's a great celebration for you guys out there. Hawk fans getting to go through this Christmas with thoughts of the number one seed, like gumdrops dancing in the children's head as they're in bed there thinking about Santa. That's what we get to think about as the adults, right? We get to think about those daydreams of the presents we can unpack under that tree. And I'm talking about the dubs. I'm talking about Williams scalps. I'm talking about Super Bowl. Don't ever you forget, Chad. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Go Hawks, brother. Thank you for all of your support through these years. Thank you for that big $20 drop. And you are very kind for doing so. Again, I hope you have a great Christmas, you and your family. And you guys are unbelievable in this chat. Just unbelievable. What's Brandon's Discord? I think I've got it down in the description link of the video here. I'm not on there very much, but we do have an open Discord channel. Seahawks Daddy says, never understood the keep pounding slogan for the Panthers. You're the Panthers. Shouldn't it be keep scratching? He's got a point. Oh, he's got a point. keep. No, I thought he said keep purring. Jail says, well, you're working, so you deserve it. This channel keeps me sane. Thank you for that, Jail. You guys keep me sane as well. You guys keep me going, and it's every equivalent back to you guys the opposite direction, I assure you. As Joe says, way to support the channel, 12. It's great stuff. Second to none, the support that I get here. Bang for buck, there's nobody that gets the kind of love I do from this fan base and the way they do it. And as I say, it is your guys' kindness and all what you do for this channel that drives that. It ain't me on that side of it. It is really you guys, and I appreciate it. Always bring. That's right, Lou. And he says, yeah, go Panthers, except when they play us. Yeah, exactly. Tyrone says, 12 man eating good tonight? Yes, sir, I do. Yes, sir, I do. Got a great fan base out here, Tyrone. Cool dude. Be mean. Thanks for supporting the brand. And the Hawks says, you too, Space. You as well on that. You guys are just amazing. Just amazing. Daniel says Murphy is playing half his snaps at nose tackle and has 3 stats that would be impressive for a pure 3 tech. Not being all pro, let alone Pro Bowler, is asinine. Agreed. It's one where he should get the love for doing that, but this kind of voting and this kind of outlook on this voting doesn't tend to take that type of stuff into account, even though it should. Absolutely, it should. Carolina finished last season third in the NFC South, 5-12. Today, Carolina on top of the NFC with 8-7, 2 left to play. Both years, only one team in the NFC South with a winning record. Carolina improving, but not there yet. Definitely, they're getting better. And there's not a lot of teams there's not all the teams in that division that I'm like, well, they're getting better. I mean, in Tampa Bay, we might have seen a team that topped out a little bit of where they were a couple of years ago versus where they're maybe going. But Carolina's on the rise. Seahawks Daddy says 2 ways to distract a Panthers fan. Pull out a basketball or tell them there's a car race outside. Hawks goal, I just hope Carolina aren't in the position they have to rely on Damian Lewis and Jake Curhan on their O-line. They weren't good with us and can't see them having gotten any better. Damian's been pretty solid for them, but Drake's a backup. Funny enough, they have both Jake Curhan and Stone Forsythe there as backups on that offensive line right now. But no, they don't want to definitely play either of those two guys. That would definitely be the hope there. Brian says, Macdonald said earlier today that neither Bryant nor Cross are going on the IR. It's great to hear. Very encouraging. Part of one of my details of the stop of this show and saying one of the things that's got to hold is the injury situation. We need this thing to kind of hold to account and stay strong a little bit here down the course of the season, as it has throughout most of this year so far. Fake News God 69 says, as we celebrate the birth of our Lord and Savior, I think it only makes sense that Ginger Jesus Sammy D goes for 405 touchdowns this week. I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with God anointing him in that way. I would. Glock Purdy. That's a new one. Hey, Marshall says, bank is ready for Sam. We know you, Sam. Panthers feeling confident. I like it. I like it. Azaria says, I think the Bears are going to run all over the Whiners. Rivers puts up 27. Bears are going to put up 40. It's going to be a tough game for this Niner team this week, to your point, Azaria. So no guarantee they take this win, and that's going to be a dogfight for them with the way that Bears team is playing. But I'll tell you what, that offense was humming on Monday. I mean, Indianapolis Colts, a defense that we didn't exactly cut through in our house. Niners went on the road and just cut them apart. Still Dreaming says, let's not get ahead of ourselves thinking about being the Rams. We've got to beat those pesky Niners. Amen. Week by week. Week by week. Hell, you might have to beat the Niners twice if they get in the playoffs before you play the Rams, right? Joe says, whoa, never saw that. Awesome pick. Pretty cool of Mike, huh? And they've been hiding that one. Yeah, hiding that one a little bit. Passport, Poppy. We are so thankful, Seahawks fans. We're so thankful Seahawks have the number one seed in their hands, and we're going to rob the F out of them. Give us that number one seed. No, it's ours. It's ours. It's ours. It's ours. Brent says, if I was looking at that scalp stack, I'd be looking at those empty 2 spots at the top like, I need to see those filled. It'd be irritating to look at. Amen. Feels like it needs a couple more entries in there at the top, doesn't it? Passport Poppy is confident Niner fan saying we're going to have Caleb painting his nails pink after the game. I mean, I think he paints his nails pink before the game, but maybe both and after. Jose says, you think Horton's coming back this year? Offense kind of went down without him. I don't know, Jose, to be honest with you. They've been very, very hidden on that injury. Is there like something fractured in the front of his leg, and that's been what's caused this? How big was the injury? How serious was it? It's been kind of hard to exactly pin down. Mike's been kind of innocuous about it, and he doesn't exactly give you details. So I'm kind of blindly guessing in the dark. I think that with Shaheed here, it's definitely not moved them to be pushed along in the process to get him out there faster and that they can afford to take their time with him. But don't have quite a feel on that one. Global Hobos. Rams aren't going to win the Super Bowl. What are their excuses going to be, and who are they going to blame this time around? I don't know. I would say that if it was a lack of the number one bye and that was the factor that held them back and them having to go on the road, especially going on the road into an inclement weather environment that holds back their offense from performing at its best, I think that they would end up pointing back to that Thursday night game. This is a little bit of the reason why I have hammered the whole official narrative thing being spun by Rams fans, is because that's the way that will go down the line if it's not checked right now. It's like a virus that will fester and only go more further forward. For instance, to give some credence to this, the old Hail Mary season, and one of the reasons that Aaron Rodgers hates the Seattle Seahawks is because he feels like that Hail Mary season cost them the number one seed, which then forced them to go on the road in the playoffs, and which cost him a year where he should have gone to the Super Bowl and won it. So I think that's probably where you'll hear that if it goes that way. Global says, no fear. You don't play afraid of losing. Tired of scared fans. You play to win. You lose. It's sports. Zero fear of these Rams or 49ers. Any given Sunday, baby. Yeah, I like that confidence. Let's go. Andrew, Merry Christmas. Go Hawks. Gary, love, love, love. Merry Christmas, y'all. Have a good night. Have a good night, man. Merry Christmas. Boo says, Hawks Nest, Coach Lyle needs to win this fantasy football championship. That's why CMC has 88 touches on Monday. I mean, man, he is, CMC's legit probably going to end up with like 400 touches this year, isn't he? If not more, like he might actually be well above 400 touches. I was looking at earlier this year and he was on pace for like just barely over 4, but they have not slowed down on giving him the rock. So he's got 280 carries with 2 games left to go. And then he's their receiving leader as well. 116 targets and 92 receptions on the other side. So indeed, he's right on the precipice of being over 400 touches. And look, he's a tough SOB to be able to get that done because that's a lot off your body, man. You got to wonder, though, how fresh he is at this time of year, given that kind of heavy use this season. Brian says, yeah, that NDD versus San Francisco was definitely not the NDD that came to our house. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't either. Yeah, it was kind of a night and day difference from the level of effort that we were facing. It was kind of wild. Jack says, we get that number 1 seed and we're laughing. Good luck. We get the number 1 seed. We're laughing. Good luck. Oh, yeah. We're in a good situation at that point if we can do it. You're going to be very hard to walk through Seattle to get to the Super Bowl. As proven by the last 3 times that we've had the number 1 seed. Taker 610, thank you for the $5 donation, Taker. Pat McAfee was talking about the Bears moving close to Gary, Indiana, and he called the Garbars. Had me in stitches. Kind of a little bit of a shot with the Kansas City Chiefs moving to Kansas with their new stadium in 2031. Gary, Indiana. I guess by any means necessary to get a stadium built. And I suppose if it comes down to, hey, we either get a stadium built and we can remain the Chicago Bears, or we get a stadium built and we can remain in name the Kansas City Chiefs, or we can just move this team to a whole nother city. It's better than getting moved to just a whole nother across the country type city situation if you have to pick one or the other. But they're getting creative with it. I'll tell you what, these owners on some of this stuff, like San Francisco with having the stadium out in Santa Clara. Like, okay, it's pretty far from San Francisco. But you got to do what you got to do, I guess. These stadiums are pricey. Better to build them in non-high traffic areas, I guess. Taker, you're awesome, though. Thank you for the $5, man. Have a great night, Lou. Happy holidays. Go Hawks, man. Appreciate you. Steph and go global. Steph and go. Go Hawks, no limit. Appreciate you. Global, they're feeling you on that, man. They're feeling that no fear. No fear, baby. No fear. Joe, too, said, we don't back down from anybody. Eric Rose, how you doing? Good to see you in the chat. Joe says, Gare means care. Okay. Makes a little more sense on that one. Care Bears. Okay. I was like, Care Bears. Is that like an Gary, Indiana? Oh, okay. Care Bears. I see. I'm a little slow. It's late in the stream. Rocco, Merry Christmas. I think you're right, Joe. I think that's what he meant it as. Not Vexo says, what's the game plan going into the Panthers game offensively and defensively? I think you've got to run the football. When you get light boxes and a team that's fairly committed to running a light box, then running the ball needs to be a bit of the centerpiece, especially when you have it sent up into your offense to naturally run the ball anyway. The Panthers are 25th in rushing EPA per play. I think that you're going to run the ball inside on the light box, and that's why teams have rushed at them at the 20, or at basically the 4th highest rate inside on the rushing attempts percentage-wise for the Panthers. So light box, you run inside. A lot like the Rams did with us last week and how they engaged our light box. So you start there. You start with downhill runs, utilizing the light box in that way. Then you are going to look to work it out outside as you can here and there. Team's not going to blitz a lot. They're going to drop a lot of guys in coverage. So from an offensive standpoint, having longer developing plays, especially with some of the pass rush that can take a while to get there from the Panthers' perspective, would be probably pretty smart to build in. Utilizing the running backs out of the backfield and throws out to the flat and tight ends as well, taking advantage of some of the deep drops you'll get from the secondary at times. Being patient offensively, finding the wins on early downs to get you into third and makeable and control the clock and just keep the chains of moving. I think you can work in some of those deep shots because of the time you're going to have in the pocket to set up and be able to throw. But it's not a Panthers team that's going to throw a lot at you defensively, being really highly multiple. They're 18th in blitz rate, kind of middle of the road. They're not running a lot of stack boxes, so 28th in stack box usage rate, not a lot of simulated pressures. So it's a pretty straightforward game plan in how you would look to attack them. I would mainly try to, for the most part, get downhill, mix in a little bit of the other stuff, feature the bubble screen game, feature throws out to the flat, work some of the short passing attack, kind of stay in that mode of things, if it were. But they're 32nd in pressure rate, so you should have just about all day to sit back there and throw. I will say Nick Gordon's coming along, and he's playing a lot better brand of football as this year's wore on, as you'd expect for a rookie. He was really flashing on the tape last week against Tampa Bay. Defensively speaking, we're going to run things kind of similarly at the Panthers. I think that they're going to run it as defensively from a stylistic standpoint. It's going to be us running light boxes. It's going to be dropping a heavy amount of guys to coverage, not blitzing very often. It's a team in the Panthers that doesn't run a lot of play action, 21st in the NFL in play action rate. It's a lot of shotgun. It's a lot of 3 wide receiver set. They're second in the NFL in empty looks, going 5 wide. That's something that can kind of for a young quarterback that can simplify down reads when you spread everybody out all across the field. And it goes back to more of what, of course, Bryce was doing back at Alabama. So, you're well prepared to deal with that because you just live in nickel 24/7 anyway. We're in a year where defensively so many teams have tried to transition into more of a base package front, especially against the 12 personnel. We don't have to do that. So the way that they accommodate, the way they've been able to keep teams off kilter, going to those spread concepts or going to the 3 wide receiver looks, we're going to be well suited to deal with that. A lot of the rushing attack will sometimes happen out of shotgun because they want to keep Bryce in shotgun to give him more, space back there to be able to survey things. He's not the tallest guy going out from under center. It's a little bit of an explanation why you don't deal with the play action as much with them as well. So I think when it comes to the keys of the Panthers is that I would force them to be patient because I think that Bryce wants to look for the deep shot. He wants to look for the big play down the field. And I think he goes a little bit too often in search of that, and he finds a way and he makes it happen. But I think you can make him pay the price by forcing him to get impatient. Not all quarterbacks will do that. There's some quarterbacks that'll live in that short passing pocket all day long if that's what you're going to give them. I think with Bryce, he's going to get a little bit greedy at one point or another, and he's going to want to try to go take his shot. So I think forcing them to be patient. You don't have to really load the box up, but I do like the thought process of dialing up more of what you would have used last week, which have been even more stack boxes, simulated like look pressure fronts. Try to get a little bit into the confusion game with Bryce a little bit as well, and making him have to kind of second guess what he's seeing pre-snap to post-snap. And that'd be the basic attack. I have Sam be hyper aware, protecting the ball. And like, look, we're going to find enough headway against this defense today without you having to make dimes throw after dime throw. Well, you're going to need to execute the offense. You're going to need to make some throws here, but defensively should be able to hold them down relatively well. Special teams should be able to be what it is. Just go out and execute within yourself here. Take what the defense gives you. That would be my basic game plan, and as well to use your legs when you get the opportunity, Sam. Protect the ball, take what they give you, use your legs when you get the opportunity. And let's feature Walker this week. Let's get Walker really, let's get him 15 carries in this game. I'd like to see that too. Brian says, Brandon, there's a shrinking taxpayer support for new stadiums because they're already being taxed to death and refuse to subsidize the right owners. Agreed. And I get it from the fan standpoint. I mean, even here in Seattle, we had an owner that was at least willing to throw some of his money on the line to get the stadium built. And then all these other owners are just like, you pick up the whole ticket. You pay the whole cost. And that's this day and age, especially with people and how they're struggling, that's a tough sell. I think that these owners will be much better suited in walking into these situations with less of like trying to be a gangster and walk in there like they've got these fan bases held over a barrel. Less of a feeling of that and more of a let's meet halfway kind of thing. You're pulling in plenty of profit every year. You can ante up a couple $100 million on it. You can find a way to probably recoup some of what you put into it with some of the events and things that you can have in the stadium in the off season and have a piece of that pie. There's a creative way to get this done, but the owners just kind of walk up to the plate and they're just kind of like our way or the highway on this. And when it comes to certain taxpayers in this country, they're going to tell you to pound sand. Boo says, Hawks Nest, do you think the Raven fans saying they should have kept Macdonald and fired Harbaugh are being silly? Would Macdonald even want to take over when both Jim and John were his mentors? That's good. Some good questions there, Boo. I do want to give the Panthers fan or the Ravens fans a lot of credit on this one, in that there was a lot of Raven fans at the time of us getting Macdonald who were kind of shaking their head going, we shouldn't let this guy go. We shouldn't let this guy go. We shouldn't let this guy go. This is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So they all kind of had not all, but there was a lot of them that had a bit of that vibe in the moment. And so now you have a couple of years down the line on it. And those people that had those, you think about it, Boo, from their perspective, you already have this sneaking suspicion in the moment that this is going to go a certain way. And then it goes that way. You really feel them turn it over last week. And quite frankly, I was finding it very satisfying watching all the Twitter posts out there from Ravens fans being like, should never have let him walk. Just an amazing coach. Just a leader of men. I feel a little bad for celebrating, but it's just like they were going over the top. I mean, that's why you're referencing is you were seeing the same thing out there, Boo, where you're like, really? Guys, 2 years ago. Like, it's like it's like the buddy that can't let go of the girl that, he hasn't been dating in 2 years. There was just something about her, man. She was special. She was different. But that is a bit of their vibe. And would he have taken over for Harbaugh there versus having more of his pick of the litter and other opportunities that were out there that existed? I don't think he would have, especially considering that Jay Harbaugh, his son is on, we got a Harbaugh son on the staff. So probably not would have been the landing zone with Mike being the place that I think that, he would have done that way. I think that would have been a tough sell for Mike. The way he seems to be being wired, and a loyal guy. Brian says, Chicago and KC are the latest examples of teams moving stadiums if government doesn't subsidize them. Indeed. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, I again think it's hard pressed to say that this is all in the taxpayer's dollar to get this done. You should be footing some of the bill. Well, in the case of Chicago, for instance, that's an ownership by committee group. So that's a group that's got, 20, 25 different owners, not cash rich, doesn't have the money to cobble together to put in their own money for a stadium, right? So they start coming back to the taxpayers. Like, well, is this because the taxpayers should pay it, or is it because you kind of can't keep up with the Joneses of the NFL now? And there's a new kind of owner now that is on the scene in the NFL. And it is one where you've got to be a billionaire now. So I understand the wanting of the new stadium, but I don't understand the our way or the highway approach to it. Brian says Kansas is copying the arrangement Seattle and Paul Allen made to fund the stadium. TIF funding. City owns the stadium and team pays rent. I like it. Find a way to put a little bit of money on the table, a little bit of skin in the game if you're an owner. Paul Allen did it, and it's part of why I say with Paul Allen, he's the guy that deserves the statue in front of that stadium before anybody else. Because he's the man that saved your franchise from becoming a Los Angeles Seahawks. He's the man that also, by saving it, had to kick in well over $150 million of his own money to get the stadium built. And he was willing to do that. And then he put his pocketbook down and signed big free agents right from the jump like Chad Brown and company, and maintained that and kept that energy and got you the 3 Super Bowls on the back of being that aggressive and willing to put the skin in the game. Daniel Bailey, is it true that Jake argued the Parkinson touchdown against the Lions was legit? Bro is such a homer. At least I could admit that the man downfield in our game was a gray area call and could have been bad. Well, that's showing more magnanimous spot on your on it, because I definitely push back fully on that. No, I think it's a blatant, Daniel, I think it's a blatant penalty there on that lineman. I think he is well past a yard down the field, and nobody's pushed him to be in that position. He's put himself in that position to be in that position. But yes, you are correct. Jake did indeed argue that Parkinson's, he catches it on the 1.5 yard line and then spends the next 1.5 yards, according to Jake, bobbling the ball before he gets in the end zone. You know? Okay. Sure. Phoebe Hawks Nest, if the Ravens get rid of Harbaugh, not saying it happens, but if it does, the Cards would be the best fit, like A++++ higher culture change, and can get them fast success in it. Yeah, I think the Cardinals would be really well suited to try to find a coach like Harbaugh if they can. I don't think that they've been necessarily well suited in their team's history going for guys that are the young coach, although like a Macdonald, trying to look to replicate a Macdonald hire, as you kind of seem to do with a guy like Gannon. In your approach versus finding a little more tried and true. You know, you need a little more certainty in that building, to your point, in my opinion as well. And a guy like Harbaugh would be a guy that'd be able to bring that. And I think that would be a very good hire for them. His connections in the league and his ability to bring on a very fine coaching staff in addition to that. I think that would be a very cool fit there with him going there. Harbaugh seems like a coach that would be snatched up somewhere if he got let go. Daniels, as far as the Parkinson touchdown, the irony is that if he wanted to say he lost control and didn't regain it until in the end zone, to my eye, he didn't have full control until out of bounds, thus worse for the Rams. Slippery slope, you know what I mean, Daniel? And, it's a controversial call. It went in the Rams' favor. Through the years there, since they've been in LA, there's been a lot of these kind of calls. And they're certainly not in a position where the NFL is somehow out for them or doing them dirty, or every week in and week out, they're somehow finding themselves on the short end of the stick. It's just not accurate. Joe Smith, hey y'all, Merry Christmas. Rams, 49ers, Broncos, and Panthers fans included. Should be a great game on Sunday. We'll see you in a couple of days. Go Hawks. Well, go Hawks, Joe. Thank you for riding with me here today. Tyrone says, keep pounding. You keep pounding out there, Tyrone. We'll see how the game's going to go this week. It's going to be a hell of a battle. And you guys have got a team that is on the rise and a team that's worth being excited for out there in Carolina. And you guys had to wait a little bit of time for that, and we can relate to that. So we'll just see how this goes. Let the best man win this Sunday. Both teams very hungry to go and get this game. And I'm going to be very, very interested. Of course, we'll be covering this here live, play-by-play throughout the course of Sunday. Come in here and check out the action. We'll be doing the post-game as well on that side of it. Again, I want to put a final thank you, if I can, here as well. We'll kind of wrap things up here to the sponsor of the show. Sponsor of the show is, of course, Sleeper. Sleeper is the #1 sports app running the sport today. They are a great app with a lot of great picks and options out there to go through. Some of these apps are very restricted. Sleeper's not. They allow you a lot of different selection points to go through. You can build your ticket. They got promos like I do here with a 75% boost. And when you use my code NEST, N-E-S-T, they will match you up to 100% of your first deposit up to $100. $100 from me to you through the channel. But wait, there's more, as it's a free $20, no deposit needed, just free $20 in your pocket. Just create a login. So $120 from me to you through the Sleeper app, and you show some love to the channel at the very same time. Terms and conditions to apply. Please see Sleeper for details, as well as you can see here we've got my picks on the day. Bryce Young, Cooper Kupp, going over 34.5 yards. Bryce Young with more than 14.5 rushing yards. Walker with more than 55.5 rushing yards. Shaheed with more than 27.5 receiving yards. And Shaheed with 2.5 more receptions. I feel like both Kupp and Shaheed will get a little bit of work here. I think the Panthers are going to try to drive some of the double teams over to JSN in this game. I think you're going to run the ball. And Bryce Young breaks the pocket enough and how he does what he does improvisational-wise that he's going to probably go get those 14 yards over the course of this game, especially with Seattle probably staying with the front four and not doing as much of the blitz game and the action on that. But a big thank you out there to Sleeper for doing what they do on that side of it. As well, I want to thank you guys today for watching. Really appreciate that as well. Last couple of comments here we'll get in, and then we will wish you all a real Merry Christmas here. Steve, also, everybody remembers Joe Montana's game-winning touchdown pass to Dwight Clark, but forget he turned the ball over 5 times in that game. People get hyper-fixated, especially in this day and age, on the turnover, Steve, to your point, and it becomes an end-all, be-all determinant at times for certain players when it comes to the quarterback position. And this is one where I think the quarterback position has slid back into more traditional norms, more than what it's been in the 2010s, where it was more spread concepts, really just going across the sport every which way but loose, which I think made playing the position easier. I think with the transition back into under center, with the transition back to 12 personnel, with the transition back to 21 personnel, I formation looks, I think playing the position has gotten back to being in a place of very difficult. And when the position gets harder to play, you're probably going to get more turnovers with that. And at a time when Joe played, that was a time when it was a hard position to play, and that turnovers were kind of a frequent thing that you saw from quarterbacks during that era at times. But it's not about the turnovers you make in a game. It's about how you play over the whole course of the game. And sometimes it's just about how you finish the day up. And as Joe did there and finishing strong and having that clutch gene, as he no doubt did have, that's something that we've seen within Sam Darnold. And that's also a skill at the quarterback position, to your point. BB, how about the blatant PI on JSN that would have gotten JSN a first down, but wasn't called, and he was being hugged, and that was the first game. So, yeah, and there's a couple things that first game, and it's part of why I get sensitive to the second game having them point to the officials, because I could have sat there in that first game and point out a variety of different things. I can go point out to the first drive of the game, Devin Witherspoon coming up to make a tackle, and he makes the tackle, and the guy's laying on the ground, so he's like not laying on the ground. He's like tripped, and he's trying to get back up, and he knocks him back down to make sure he doesn't get back up. And they call like some illegal, intentional this or something there on that side of it. So, I just think that there was also the pull on Cooper Kupp on the first interception in the game, but I don't point back to that game going that the officials robbed us of it. We had plenty of chances. The officials didn't make Sam Darnold throw 4 interceptions on the day. It is what it is with that a little bit there. So, you're going to have days where officials aren't always going to be working in your favor fully. Doesn't mean the fix isn't at that point. Sometimes you can get egregious, and that's where your antenna starts to go up, like the Colts game a little bit. But every other game this year has been so well officiated to me. Outside the Colts game, every single other one has been just, to me, fairly well evenly officiated and truly officiated by an overall stance of things. And that's been very good to be able to watch this year with some teams out there with so many people with questions to the officials and whatnot. Go Hawks, T-Mac. Go Hawks. Captain Rex says, Super Bowl bound, baby. All I got to say to that is,
enough said.
Enough said. Let's go. Brian, all right. Merry Christmas to all. Merry Christmas to you and yours, Brando. Let's enjoy the holiday and have something to celebrate by 1 o'clock on Sunday. Go Hawks. Go Hawks, Brian. Merry Christmas to you and yours as well. Thank you, man, for, again, being another cool contributor and part of this community on that side of it. Let's go get this win. Let's close off Christmas right. Set the stage for the new year and the San Francisco 49ers. Pierce, TR Pierce, thank you. Good to see you in the house here. Says, great show, B. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and go Hawks. Go Hawks, my man. Appreciate you. Tyler, do you think K9 will get 1,000 yards? I believe he is at a 900 right now. But let me go make sure that I'm not speaking out of school. So he's at 190 carries, 879 yards, 120 away. So does he get 60 yards over the next 2 days? Yeah, I think he does, Tyler. And you got to feel like if he's close that the team's going to help to get him up over the top, right? He's that Niner game, you're close. I think, in general terms, but part of this also is, Tyler, that I'm counting on the team looking at the situation between Zach Charbonnet and Walker at this point and saying, okay, one guy's a yard better at this point in time of the year as a yard per carry running behind the exact same offensive line. And that's a pretty stark difference between your one back to your two back, but there's about 50 carries there's about 50 touches difference between the two players. So as much as preserving Walker was smart early in the year and halfway into the year and 3/4 into the year, maybe now at this point, we just let him go full bore. And we've got 5 games potentially left in this season. If everything works out great, let's ride him until the wheel's off through these last 5 games. If he gets injured, he gets injured. At least you're getting injured with these games on the line, meaning something, mattering, needing his production in a ground game that has not always been terribly consistent this season. Chad Hart, go Hawks, man. Appreciate you. Steve says, considering the players each quarterback has around them, I think it's very clear that Justin Herbert is the better quarterback in LA, better than Stafford. It's an interesting point, Steve. I mean, it's a very interesting point. You have in a guy in Herbert that the supporting cast has not been great. They've taken some swings with certain receivers there, but have never really quite given him the component of having a, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp running in his prime with the Triple Crown like he was with Stafford, and then adding in other parts around that in addition to that to kind of supplemental parts to also help it kind of top out. Good running back, great offensive line. That's a fair point in that as far as like the supporting cast goes, and it might be enough to move the needle in that way. It might, I can't deny that. I think from my perspective, Stafford and what he's done to have the best year of his career like he has now, as much stuff is working in his favor is cool. It's just he's making some unbelievable throws too. And he's making some throws, and I don't know if anybody else in the game can make, even Herbert with his big arm at times. But I get where you're coming from on that, because Herbert's had a little bit of that victim of not having everything right. Even this year where you seem to have the offensive line in place, you lose both of your 2 tackles. It's like that was a big driving force of that team, and those guys were maybe 2 of the best 6-7 tackles in the sport that you're losing there. That's hard, I mean, that's definitely that weakened down that supporting cast in a major way. Why are you mad, bro? Do you think if they let Mafe go, they will go edge in first round, or do you think they buff up the O-line still? I do think Mafe is going to be on the move. Why are you mad, bro? Yes. I think that they're going to try. My gut instinct on this is that they're going to address the edge before the draft. That they're not looking to draft a guy. They're going to have to potentially wait on a couple of years for him to get to his productive level. Meaning that these young guys, and especially going to take them late first round, second round, historically speaking, we've been shown that these guys, if they are going to develop into good pass rushers off the edge, they're going to tend to take at least 1 year and sometimes 2 years. I think if you come into 2026, you're talking about go time. You're talking about wanting a Super Bowl team that's ready to go and make that run. And I don't think that you want a big bunch of question marks at your edge group at that point. So that does lead me to believe that they're probably going to package that first round pick for an edge out there, be it a Crosby or be it somebody else. Why you mad, bro? I do think that you still come back around on day 2 and probably go and get an offensive lineman. But this team's also surprised when it comes to their outlook of the offensive line, and that we think of one thing and then they go kind of a different direction of it in their viewpoint of it. So they may feel like Bradford, 1 more year of contract roll with him. They may look at Sundell with the second year there at center and that he'll improve with that. I don't know if I share that outlook, but I could see how the team could kind of take that outlook of approach. Easy to kind of do that because then you can go concentrate on other stuff like outside corner and safety and getting your contract extensions done. But I can't help but think they're going to somehow address this offensive line with some kind of quality. Why are you mad, bro? Not just a back end day 3 guy, but some kind of quality. Will Valdez, I noticed that the defense has not been playing more disciplined and not jumping off sides, even when they try to use a hard count. It's nice seeing them cleaning up the avoidable penalties. Agreed. Will. Team's done a great job this year under Mike Macdonald of probably as low as we've been penalized this season as we've seen in probably 10 years here in Seattle. So cleaning up some of the small mistakes, being detailed centric as Macdonald. One of the parts you liked about bringing him on as a coach is that he would have that in his way. They could clean up that penalty problem that when Carroll was here, we had a 10-year run where we were the second most penalized team in the entire National Football League. And so that's just one place Mike has cleaned up on top of so many others. Mimi, so glad Mike training camp is the way it is, because having all our players healthy this time of year is not normal in Hawks history. Another reason why I like Mike. He knows how to run a training camp, man. And he ran a hard one. He ran an intense one by all accounts. But you can run intensity and you can still kind of protect the players and find that balance. And it's a hard one to strike. I think he learned a lot about it from the Harbaugh brothers and their application of that model. But he's got this team seemingly ready and good to go, as you could be at this depth of the season, body-wise. Merry Christmas, Mendoza. Thank you, man. Let's hope we get this 1 seed against San Francisco. Let's get it. Let's get it. Steve says, speaking of our own offensive line, are both Lucas and contract due for a contract extension this off season? Nope. Well, this is one of the reasons John Schneider should win Executive of the Year, Steve, is that he gets ahead of problems. He's not reactive to problems. And so in the case of Lucas, they went to Lucas this year and they said, hey, here's a contract extension. We're going to take a little bit of you're going to take a little bit of a discount. If you go out and have this great year, you could maybe go make that $20 million a year. But you're going to get money in hand right now. We're going to get you on an extension. We're going to get you on a nice moderate deal. That's what they pulled off. So Lucas is on an extension. Cross has the 5th-year option left on his deal. You can franchise him after that point. I think that they probably do find an extension here with Cross somehow or another. But you're in good place where you got them both under club control moving into the future. Bottom line. Jose, you think they could grab wide receiver in the first if there's a real good player there? I do. And I've got 4 first-round grades on wide receivers, so there's even a chance that there could be a receiver that's on your board in a spot that you really like for where you're picking in the first round, Jose. Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, Denzel Boston. Those are my 4 stack of wide receivers in the first round. Probably would go order of Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Denzel Boston, Mekhi Lemon would be my 4 stack. But I believe Cooper Kupp costs $18.5 million in the cap next year. Could be a cap casualty. Rashid Shaheed is a free agent. No guarantee you're bringing him back in the flow. You got Torrey Horton already here on the team. Team might try to go a little bit cheaper at the position with the fact that they have to pay $43+ million per year to Jaxon Smith-Njigba. So it's a possibility on that, but it's all going to be determined on what you really do with the Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed situation. I think if you keep kind of either of those 2 guys, it makes it very likely you're not going to do that. Let both those 2 guys go, probably likely, instead of free agency that you go and do that. Steve says, every time I listen to Mike Macdonald speak, I am so damn glad this man is our coach. He's just the full meal deal, Steve, and that's what I love about it too, is that you have a guy that's not just good at one aspect of coaching, or he's an X's and O's nerd guy, but he can't really connect with people, or, I can connect with people, but I'm not really a leader of men. I can't really control the room and get everybody connected in that way. But this is a guy that's got all of that. He can be the motivator. He can be the X's and O guy. He can be the play caller there on the sideline. He can be that culture builder that we were looking for to change in this way. And I love that we've got him. I think that they had a great process to getting around to the spot to landing on him as this head coach here. And the future is very bright for Mike. He is, as I've called him, a 5-tool kind of head coach. Hard to find those kind of guys. Might have 2 even in this division with a Shanahan and McVay. But I'm glad we got him, man. Very glad. Jose says, what's your thoughts on Mendoza? Is he a guy for a team that needs a quarterback? He's having a real magical year, Jose, and it's tough when a guy's doing this much in a year to be kind of so magical around what his team's done and the Indiana turning this program into prominence. But I think a big part of this is a lot of what that head coach has done there as much as anything else. Mendoza's having a fine season. I don't have a high grade as others do on him, though. When it comes to quarterbacking, I want to look at 2 different points of skill set in quarterbacking play. I want to see arm strength, and I want to see processing. There's some more stuff that I'd like to see with the quarterback position and evaluation to make me have faith in a guy. But if you're missing kind of 2 of those things and you have all this other stuff, cool. But there's so much other limitations to your game now. I have to have an offensive coordinator that can keep everything structured for you to get you successful. And then I got to make sure I have an offensive line that can pass protect perfectly to keep you clean. With my nose, that's a little bit of lack of mobility. But then the arm strength, there's certain throws that you can't make down the field. I don't get to have in my playbook, especially if we're in inclement weather. I got to throw it through the wind. You just can't do it. I don't think Mendoza has a bad arm, but I don't think he has really an above average arm. It's like an average arm for an NFL prospect. I think his mobility is probably slightly below average. He's willing to use his legs, and in college, he's going to look a lot more mobile, I think, than he will as a pro. When he's moving to his right, when he's throwing off platform, he loses a lot of velocity and a lot of accuracy. He's really tough in the pocket. He's got a lot of moxie. He's also, Jose, running a lot of the RPO out of shotgun stuff. A lot of the, highly structured stuff for a quarterback that does not translate to the NFL when now he's going to go under center and he's got to have the footwork for all that. So I've put a 3rd round grade on him, and one that I don't feel even the least bit bad about doing so. I understand everybody else is going to have him in the 1st round. My quarterback outlooks through the last few years and my evaluations, and we'll probably go over them as we go up to this draft to kind of show you guys a little bit of where I've been at certain quarterbacks, has been pretty right on the money. I have a guy here or a guy there I might miss on, but most of the guys I target in about the right spot in my outlook of him. And with Mendoza, I just think that there are limitations there. And if I'm taking a guy in the 1st round at the quarterback position, I need to not have a guy that's got a heavy amount of limitations. I need to not work through the diminishing factors of your game to get to the good. And that's a little bit of what you're going to have to do, I think, with Mendoza. Hell of a season, but I think a great college quarterback, not necessarily a great NFL quarterback. Why you mad, bro? Let's say we trade for Crosby. What would it cost for him? And also, are we still able to retain some of our free agents? Yes, absolutely. Let's walk through this. This is the way this would work on this, you mad, bro. So, you make the trade for Max Crosby, which means you're going to pick up this contract right here. This contract is an extension that he signed this offseason. So he just signed a contract extension. Kind of the key part here on Why You Mad Bro. It's going to be very hard for him to come back wanting a contract extension, especially if this is about getting him out of town. So the big key on this is whether or not you have to put him on a new extension or not. I don't think you would, because he just got the new extension, but the new extension also didn't give him any real new money. What the new extension did is it just guaranteed his contract for 2026 and 2027. Well, basically kind of fully guaranteed his deal all the way through here. Not fully guaranteed, sorry. Fully guaranteed his contract there for 2026 on guarantees. So you're probably going to have to do a contract extension is kind of what I'm saying, even though he's got the extra years remaining, even though he just signed a contract. And that means that it's going to probably cost you more. But you can structure the deal in such a way at that point to where you can lower down his hit significantly. And I think the first place that you would go about doing so is if you bring him in just based to bonus this money right off the bat. So the happy way to get this done to where you don't have to give him the new extension is you say, okay, here's $29 million rather than base salary. We're going to turn it into bonus right in your pocket instantaneously, Max. And you get the trade to go to a contender. Now that spreads out over the 3 years of the deal. That means it's $13 million per year for new bonus money on his contract. That then means that his cap hit for this next year would be down because it's 13, 13, 13. You'd be able to lower it down to potentially $13 million per I'm in 2027 here. So let me go to this. You're going to base the bonus this. Sorry, let me get this right. I'm a little bit rummy here, you whitey man, bro. You base the bonus this, 30 million. You got the 4 years left. 4 divided by 30, so 7.5. You take him down to a $23 million cap hit next year. You get him the bonus money in hand, so he at least gets a little bit extra cash. But now he's down to $23 million of cap hit. So when you go to Seattle next year, 2026, here's Seattle right here. They're sitting with the seventh most amount of cap space right now at $71.183 million. So $23 million off of that will take you down to about $48 million or so. $48 million is going to be plenty of money to do the rest of your business. I mean, $48 million, if you look at this, you go from 71 to 48 million, you go from having the seventh most amount of cap space to the ninth most amount of cap space. Seattle can do, I want to not undersell this because this is an important part of this offseason. We are not limited by any means at all in cap space. At all. Because not only do you have the seventh most amount of cap space, which is as good a position as you have been in going into an offseason in a long, long time, but this is the other important number right here. Right here. $483,000. Seattle Seahawks the past 3-4 years have been carrying 40, 50, 60, 75, $80 million. Let's look at, for instance, right now where we're at just this year alone. $87.34 million of dead money. Money going to guys not on the roster that you had to cut and bring back into tow. $21 million to DK, $14 million to Draymond Jones, $14 million to Tyler Lockett, $13.5 million to Geno Smith, $4.5 million to Noah Fant, $3 million to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, $2.5 million to Rayshon Jenkins. So that's the consideration here is not only do you have the cap space, but it's also like if you have $23 million of cap space and then also you've got $40 million of dead money, well, you also don't have cap space and you don't have cap flexibility. The Seattle Seahawks for 2026 both have cap flexibility with only the $400,000 of dead money as opposed to the $87 million of dead money we're carrying right now. And you also have cap space with the $71 million. So is there going to be a lot of contract extensions to put down on the table? Yeah. Is there guys you're going to be adding on board? Yeah, there is. But you've got the means to be able to do it. You do have the means. IB, your legend, says Koken. Go Hawks. Me, you are definitely a legend. Appreciate you for all of your support. Definitely a legend. Ashton Malcolm, Carnell Taylor, Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith all day, every day, 24/7. He's going to be the best wide receiver prospect to come out since Jamar Chase. Probably even more talented than that, and that is saying something. I stomped casuals for fun. I never understood the supporting cast narrative for MVP this season. I see Stafford winning MVP because he's clearly the best quarterback this season so far. Merry Christmas. Go Rams. Well, Merry Christmas to you as well. Best of luck to you guys this year. And I'm not blowing smoke. I do as well feel like Matt Stafford deserves the MVP. Just because he's got the supporting cast doesn't mean he's not out there balling out. And if you put any other quarterback on that Rams team, are they going to have the same amount of wins this year? I don't think so. No, I don't. He has been absolutely nails and lights out. Just threw for 450 yards in this last game against one of the best defenses in the sport. I just like with that. That's without Devontae Adams. That's down his right guard through a lot of this game too. To me, Stafford has clearly won it. Clearly is a good way of putting it. I stomp casuals. He's clearly won at this point. He's the most important player to the Rams team. That's the other part of this. If we want to go by that too, most important player, most valuable player, he is the most important player to any team in this sport right now. And I think it should be pretty easy as far as the voting goes on that one. Well, Valdez, Crosby will put Seattle's defense over the top, especially with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy creating the pressure that they do as is. It is. I'm so caught up in this thought process going after Crosby because of what it will free up for the rest of the defensive line and the defense as a whole. Because Mike can just drive you crazy offensively with those stacked boxes. And part of the stacked boxes is changing protections. And if I'm trying to accommodate a double team over to Crosby because I can't trust my tackle to hold up against him, that's going to mess up with all my protections now when you start running some of those games up front. So, this is one of the things that the Rams did really great with AD at the end of his career there. Where there's a lot of games they ran up front and was really specifically driving at times to both take advantage of the attention that AD would draw, but then also to be able to try to get him into more of one-on-one situations by forcing the protections to change. Micah says, year 2 Emanwari, year 4 Spoon with Byron entering his prime, Leo and Max. That's a nasty group. Could be historic. Could be, man. You see the vision I do, man. You put that team together, it's like, who's doing anything offensively against that team? Who is it? Alpha Sucks and Mox. B, if you could only have one, would you sign Linderbaum 5/100, 75 guaranteed, or trade your first this year and next year for Crosby? I would go for Crosby because I can go find center help elsewhere that I think can be fairly equivalent to what Linderbaum provides. I don't think that I can just find Max Crosby's growing on every neighbor's tree like a fruit. Like there's just one falling off the apple tree every day. He's a unique talent. There's only a couple guys that are truly difference makers coming off the edge in this sport. But I think with Linderbaum, though he's one of the better centers in this sport, I just think that it's a position that's one where you can kind of find your way through. It doesn't mean we have to rock with just Sundell after that as the fallback there, but could you go make a move for like a Cesar Ruiz? And Ruiz comes in here and slides back to his natural center position from being a guard through a lot of his career, a center position where he's a better fit. And the cost is much lower than what you'd have to pay for Linderbaum as far as price goes on the front end, as far as contractually goes. And the draft capital would not be that tremendous either, even though I know you've given up that for Crosby as it is too in addition to it. But I'd come back to that. What's my trade package for Crosby? Was this room you mad, bro? I think let's operate from this standpoint. Why you mad, bro? If you just have to base the bonuses deal and you don't have to put him on a new contract extension from the Raiders standpoint, we're giving you a top flight edge. You're not having to sign on a contract extension. And this is a very important part of this puzzle because when the Raiders traded Khalil Mack to the Bears had to sign Khalil Mack to a record-breaking contract. When the Packers traded for Micah Parsons, they had to sign a record-breaking contract. So it's really the important part about this in projecting what the trade package would be because it all depends upon whether or not Crosby's going to insist on a new deal or not. A new deal will lower down the package is kind of what I'm saying on that. But as well, on the other side of that, why are you mad, bro? Because it's the unusual scenario where you might be getting this guy under 4 years of contract left. Raiders are going to want you to maybe blow them out of the water with a grade A offer then to make that happen, on top of the fact that it's probably going to be a bit of a bidding war for his services. Could a team like the Eagles come in there and try to make some headway there? Could a couple of these other teams out there that need an edge come in there hard as well? Yeah, I think they could. So my anticipation on this is that you start with 2 first-round picks. You're probably going to have to kick in a player and maybe another 3rd-round pick in addition. Maybe you can get it done with just a couple first-round picks and a player, get the job done on this. But I do think that you're looking at a combination of those factors because of the contract being so digestible for whatever team moves Crosby. So if he got more than like what Micah Parsons got back in return, it wouldn't surprise me because you're not signing him that contract extension is kind of what I'm trying to say there. Philip Price, thank you for your time. Merry Christmas, man. Appreciate you. Steve says Max Crosby joining this defense would be sick. It would be. And Steve, there's intention here. It's not just me dreaming this up. We know the Seattle Seahawks were in on Crosby at the deadline. We know they were trying to add him to this defense. So when John gets a bone that he wants to chew on, a player that he really likes, he's going to continue to keep going at those after that player. You got to feel with Max that maybe he's going to get to the line of being like, guys, it's okay if you want to move me this offseason. It's all right. Donnie, Hawks Nest, hello. Brandon and all from somewhere in Hawaii. Merry Christmas Eve. Hope everyone's well this evening. You as well, Sentai. Thank you, man. It's good to see you. Merry Christmas, man. Alvis X and Mox, trade for Crosby and sign Linderbaum. Then we're talking. I'll do both. You can afford to do both. If the Seahawks really want to get aggro, they can get aggro. They can get nasty with it. Steve, so still the center position can't be understated for its importance. Our team was never the same past Max Unger. Yeah, and I think the team has struggled to find a vibrant center for the position, Steve. I agree with you there. They've never had a center as good since Max left. I think that the contributing factor that's been investment into the position as much as it's been that they can't find an answer. So we come back to it really being, more than you need to break the bank on a Linderbaum, that it's more to me on a intention thing. So when you look at it, how have you addressed the center position over the since Max Unger's left? You drafted Ethan Posick in the second round, but then you spent all of Ethan Posick's rookie contract basically moving him to guard for them almost the majority of that time. And then once he moved on, you've been getting by with a bunch of just kind of like back-end Austin Blythe kind of players, right? Even an Oluwatimi type of player. Sundell may be having some upside in the future, but he's been in that same alignment. You've been bringing in guys that the investment's been minimal, and you just haven't given it maybe a point of emphasis. So I think that the center position will improve when the Seahawks decide that it's a position of somewhat of value. When they keep treating it like the redheaded stepchild on the offensive line, you're going to continue to get pretty substandard results on that side of it too. Maxwell, do you think the 49ers will rest their starters against us if they lose to the Bears? Maybe. I mean, that team, with as much as they've had it viciously removed from them, being the health situation of that team, that you're going to be maybe even a little bit extra careful in the situation from their perspective, understanding that there may not be anything to really as much play for in that final game that year in the final week of the season if you do lose to the Bears, to your point, Maxwell. So probably a little bit. Yeah, a little bit, I would think. Kind of could make this odd too with both the Panthers coming up this week and the Niners. Panthers with this week don't have a lot on this line with this game either, considering they've got to win next week no matter what as it is. So does that affect them in resting a guy here or there, or not playing a guy that could maybe play, but they're like, yeah, just wait till next week. Donnie, Oxness, of course. I'm having a fun Hawaii Christmas. I'll return to Western Washington on the night of Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas, man. Have a great time out there in Hawaii, and appreciate you. Alvis Sucks, I would not be shocked if we got Crosby and Linderbaum. We got the moolah. We got the money. You got cap space, cap flexibility. You can do whatever you want. This is the good upside of John taking care of business, eating up the bad dead money over the past couple of years, from the Russell Wilsons to the Jamal Adams to the Quandre Diggs deal to the DK, Draymond Jones, Tyler Lockett, and Geno this past year. You clean the bad money off the books, and now you get to benefit that on the other side of it into 2026. Holy Hand Grenade's going to finish us off with a $5 donation hand grenade. I really thank you for all of your support as well throughout this year, throughout these years, as well as being a member of the channel. Really, really appreciate you for that. B, if we beat the Panthers and Bears beat the Niners, would we be in a fight with the Bears for the number 1 seed? Merry Christmas to all, and all good night. Indeed. I think that the Bears, I would be in on that mix at that point. I think potentially the Rams would be as well. I don't know how the whole triple tiebreaker works between the three of us at that point. But I do know that the Bears would be essentially trying to win to get that number 1 seed at that point. It would be down to us and them if they beat the Niners this week. So that part of it is absolutely the truth, as I understand it. I'll run the playoff simulator here real quick. Let's see what the playoff machine says here. So LA wins, Seattle wins, the Bears win, and then we go to week 18, and let's see here. They win, and then if there you go. Yep. If we lose against the Niners and the Bears win and the Rams win out the next two games, the Bears would still be the number 1 seed. So it's kind of irrelevant to them. Would just come down to us. Come down to us and the Chicago Bears hand grenade. That is where the fight would be at. Yeah, you got it right. You got it entirely right. And the Bears play the Detroit Lions in the last game of the season. Detroit right now 8-7. I don't think 10-7 gets you in. So you got the Hawks. And the Niners are in at 11 wins. Yeah, because even if Green Bay, the Detroit's out of it. If Green Bay loses the next two games, they're still 9-7-1 at that point. Is what it is there. Oh, wait. No, that'd be right. Okay, so 9-7-1, and then Detroit could be 10-7. So they still have a pathway to getting in that final game. So Detroit would still be working for something at the end of the season in that final game, as long as they can win this week. Vegas Hawker, does Linderbaum help at right guard? No, you bring him in as center, especially if you're going to pay him the money you're going to pay in Vegas. You wouldn't move him out of position. He's a pure center. He's been a center since college, but he's a top end center. And the Ravens are in a little bit of a turnover period, which you might be able to take advantage of, and that they don't feel like they're in a position to kind of pay top end cost for a center position where an offense is in a little bit of a disarray and they're in a little bit of a turnover mode. There's talk of maybe they're going to move Lamar this offseason. So it might be a guy that's opened up there a little bit. Maxwell could add Creed Humphrey instead of D, man. That one hurt. That one hurt and will always hurt. Steve says, yeah, missing on Creed Humphrey. It sucks, man. It sucks. Well, says, yeah, we would, but the Niners would have no incentive to play their starters. Indeed. That would be mighty helpful to us if that was the case, huh? And you could see how they would try to maybe rest their guys up for that playoff going out on the road. Does make sense from their perspective, huh? Chad Hart coming in with another $20 donation. Chad, your second dono big drop of the day here on this side, right? You dropped 20 earlier on me here. I want to say you dropped a big dono somewhere here. I can't see where it is, but you did. I know you did. Oh yeah, there you go. You dropped the 20 in just earlier on the flip side up there on the side. So thank you for that. Good to see you as well in the house, Chad. It says Jesse would be so pissed with the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl in their stadium. Go Hawks. Yeah, you think he's going to have some bitterness built up if this goes down like that, especially think about it from his perspective. They did it taking down the Rams. They did it through the hard path. They did it through the toughest division in football. They took down his Niners at the end of the season to get into that number one bye at that point, and then to go take those teams down and go get that bowl. That's one where you're a little bit bitter about it, where you're like, damn, man, our Super Bowl window closes. Seattle Super Bowl window just opens, and they go get the Super Bowl just as the window cracks open. It's like, hey, hey, you guys want a little bit of a draft? Let's open the draft. And they just little crack open. Oh, hey, Super Bowl just landed our lap. Where'd that come from? So, yeah, you've got a guy at the end of their road a little bit, and knowing that they're in a position of starting to have to really turn some things around and over, and older stars kind of moving on. And you have another team that's just young, hungry, on the scene, just starting to grow and become their great selves. And that's going to be a tough one for him to have to check out. I'm looking forward to a lot of the discussion next week with me and Jesse. Hopefully we can get this win and set the stage up right for this final game of the year. But I'm really looking forward to having a great discussion with him on this Niner team and how this year has happened. And it's been one where he's definitely, I know, not enjoyed the fact that the Seahawks have come on and become a good team. It's much better when they can refer to us as the roaches of the division as they did last year. You guys are the roaches of the division. We can't kill you, but you're not really good either. But we can't really kill you, but you're not really good either. Okay. Yeah, no, I hear you. No, roaches. No, that's good. It's a good comparison. No, it's probably right. It's probably correct. But he will be pissed, and we would be raising the Super Bowl trophy in their stadium, in Levi Stadium. Can you just picture the sight? Confetti falling, Mike Macdonald with his arm around Sam Darnold hoisting the Lombardi high into the air, fans from Seattle filling up the stadium because it's on the West Coast. Dare I dream. Dare I dream, Chad. Thank you, though, man. Merry Christmas to you. And thank you for the double dip $20 donation drop. You're awesome, bro. I really appreciate you for that. You guys are just so kind. So very kind. And then we got Janet coming in. My man dropped so many donos on the round table the other night and then coming in with a $50. I said a $50 donation. Let's go, Janet. You are the man. Thank you so much for that. Let's go. I really appreciate you for all that support, Janet. You were on fire the other day in the NFC West roundtable, and I was there for it. I was really enjoying that as he wasn't letting Jake off the hook the other night, and neither was I. Neither was many of the other 12s out there when Jake had to take some medicine the other night, huh? Didn't he, Janet? Says, thanks to this great group for making my holiday better. For those that cannot be home with loved ones, you'll always have the 12s. Merry Christmas to you all. Wow. Beautifully put on your part as we kind of get to the finishing part here and the finishing moment here on this. But I think that's a great way to kind of start to wrap us up on this one. And that holidays can be a little bit tough. And I know sometimes, and I myself was in this position, you guys helped me get through on years where I'd be in Spokane, far away from family, not able to kind of get down to folks. And having this community here, having the interactions, and to have the kindness that exists out here, and the brother and the sisterhood that exists in this community, it is what makes this channel go, Janet. It really does. It is not me. It is not me yakking away here. It's you guys within this community that really drives this thing. And you tap in, just like we ask our Hawks to tap in on that sign every week. This fandom taps in every time I get to go live. And that community is a part that I pride myself on, and that we are that brotherhood, sisterhood here. We will disagree. We will have fights. We'll have debates. Hell, this is part of the same thing in the round table that you see. I love all those guys, and I consider them all good friends. And we'll have our debates and we'll have our discussions that can get really, really spicy. But at the end of the day, the brotherhood still exists. The sisterhood still exists. And this will always be a community that we are going to pride upon being open for everybody to come in here on. Fans of other teams come in on, because there are not always all these spots that exist out there for people to come in and just have fun, enjoyable discussion where we can talk football, this sport we love, to the nth degree of our fibers, this team that we love, to the nth degree of our fibers, and just celebrate it. Celebrate the sport, celebrate this game, and just enjoy having this community as we do. Janet, that's really well said on your part, beautifully put on your part. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for being such a great person within this community, great part of this community. You guys make this thing go, and not just because of the donations and the support. You make this thing go because of being active members of the community, knowing what time it is when we go live, people just keeping the discussion in the right place of things, leaving the toxicity out every time. It's every single time I go live. And I'm really, really blessed to have that here, and blessed to have you as a part of that, man. So thank you, Janet. Merry Christmas to you. Well done the other night on some of your donation notifications on there as well. Made some good points. And I thought we did pretty well. I thought we did pretty well making an argument. I think Cardinal and Niner fans were coming away from that going, yeah, Seahawks fans made a good point there. You know what I mean, Janet? But thank you for that $50 donation, man, and all of your support to this channel, as well as being, I know, a member of the channel too. In addition to that, you're the best. Alpha Sex hot take: Saints go 11-6 next year and win a playoff game. Tyler Shock, 4K passing yards and less than 10 interceptions. Ooh, Tyler's coming along, man. He's surprising expectations here as the year goes along. Saints getting a couple wins you wouldn't have thought they should have gotten. Might be on that path, Alpha. Might just be. We shall see. Opportunity this year, it seems like, to maybe kind of start to clear some of the cap in the right direction. They've got some stuff they got to turn over with some of the aging parts of that roster that's been there. Mario Davis and Cameron Jordan and Tyler Matthew moving on there. But they've got some interesting parts there too as well. And that's a wide open division. Let's face it. Janet says, Jesse has shown our team respect we deserve very early in the season. He knows how good our team is. Amen, he does. It's just he's a bit bitter about seeing it happen. He just doesn't want to see it happen. Detroit only makes it if Green Bay loses out, and Detroit wins 10-7. That's true. I guess if they do lose this week, and this is going to be week 17, the Green Bay Packers. can never find the team by the icon when I'm looking at it. I always got to see the name. Where are the Packers at? Am I blind? Okay. Holy hell. Let's just go to this. There we go. Baltimore at Green Bay. Well, you're down Micah Parsons. We'll see if Jordan Love's going to play. He's questionable. Josh Jacobs is questionable. Hell, even Malik Willis is questionable. So we'll see how that goes. Steve there on that one. But definitely, yeah, they need them to lose to get both losses for them to even be in play. Hopefully, Green Bay does lose because that would be good for us as far as then the Lions giving the Bears all they can in the final game of the season. Even though the Lions are kind of that team, they'll play hard no matter what. I'm not sure what you were trying to say here, Visor. Your gray bore, and now for D-Law. I think it probably auto-corrected you. Yeah, Ravens are kind of going a little bit nuclear right now. It's hard to kind of count on them much with that. Lizer says, funniest season I've had funniest season I've had in a long time. This team gives, I think he meant funnest. The autocorrect's killing you, Visor. My most funnest season I've had in a long time. This team gives me more confidence each and every time they play. Go Hawks. Well said, Visor. I feel exactly the same. This has been the funnest season to watch in many a year and all-time Seahawks history. One of my favorite seasons to watch. It's been so enjoyable, and I'm savoring every week. I know now how rare this stuff is at this age, and it just makes me savor it. Janet says, haha, now they're the roaches. I know. Maybe I'll drop that one on Jesse in a couple weeks. You guys have become the roaches, huh? And Grenade Niners will be in a big dilemma if the Bears beat them and we win. Indeed. Could make it a little bit hard for them. Who are the bigger threats to the Hawks? Niners or Rams? Rams. Niners do feel like eventually that gas is going to run out of that tank, and those injuries will mount up against a good team, and it becomes too much. They've been able to, eat on the back of what walking into the season was by far the easiest schedule in the entire National Football League. And that can't be an undersold factor here, just a little bit on that. So I think it still plays out that way, and the Rams are a far superior team and would be a bigger battle for us. Jan says, is Kittle out? Unsure. He's going to try to fight it through, but I think as you saw on Monday night, that he did not look healthy at all out there. I mean, it was a really bad looking moment there where he kind of stepped wrong out of a break and never came back out in the game. But he's also a really tough guy, and tough guys can sometimes fight through that stuff, especially when you're coming out at the end of your year and you need the games and kind of laying it all on the line. I guess hopefully Panthers knock the Rams out, wild card, laughing out loud. I don't think that's going to happen. Still dreaming? Still live? Holy catfish. No, man, I'm crazy with it. Yeah, Spencer Rattler's not a bad quarterback either. No, certainly, especially not in a backup role, It's good to have, especially for a guy like Shock that's got a bit of an injury history going forward too. Max says, can't wait for Jesse in a crazy Seahawks hat. It's coming, Jesse. It's coming, brother. Fei Huang, I hope the Rams have to travel to Philadelphia in the wild card round. I'd like to see that as well. I want a nice, tough, long road for them to get back to us in the conference championship. Janet does, damn, what happened to Malik Willis? I'm not sure. They're saying an illness, so probably got sick. He'll probably play. As Mike Parsons went down, now the NFC North team scare me as well. Me neither. I think we can take it. I think we take any of those teams. Jan says, I'm pretty sure Ernest wasn't 100% for the Thursday, but we'll get there for the last two games. Agreed. Definitely, I think he's still dealing with a little bit of that knee thing that he's been fighting through. MJ Slicker, Brandon, how worried are you about the Niners? It seems like the NFL always pushes the Super Bowl location team to make it. I mean, I think Shanahan's the coach of the year, and he's done some great work. And I think that team has really shown a spirit of fight that is worthy of a heavy amount of praise. And that there's a lot of teams that I think that would have folded with the injuries that they had on them, and they have not. And that's impressive. And that's also then to be where I look at it and go, you got to take them seriously. Can't overlook this team and just decide that where they're at injury-wise, that's going to allow you to win it. With that said, you see Kittle starting to have the injury that's not going to get any better a week from now, especially upon trying to play out this week again. You got no Warner. You got no Bosa. There is no Brandon Ayuk. There's probably not going to be any Ricky Pearsall for that game. So, look, they beat us a little bit with this offensively of the same guys out there the first time. So, they got the job done in that game. They could certainly, I think, still be effective for you offensively, and especially in their home stadium. But that defense is one where no Bosa and no Fred Warner. I mean, those are the two guys that have been the tough guys for us to deal with on that defense. And they've had time single-handedly kind of wreck shop on us. I think that's a huge loss for them. For instance, MJ, the last game when they lost Fred Warner for just one drive in that 49er game, the first time we faced them, that was our touchdown drive in the game. So it's going to be a pretty big loss for them if I think that lose. They've got a hole there at the linebacker position as well. Both of their linebackers have been down this year that they had earmarked to start this season. So I think when it's all said and done, we can still take them. The advantage is still ours, given where they're at, but they're going to be a tough fight. I'm not going to say it's an easy game. Alpha, what do you feel about Elijah Vera Tucker? Majorly injury prone, but for sure a top 10 right guard when healthy. Fits the zone scheme too. Too injury prone to me, Alpha. I think a guy doesn't get more magically healthy as his career goes along, by and large. It happens occasionally, but it's not the rule of thumb. And I mean, if it's a prove-it deal like you talk about, he's a free agent coming off torn tricep, and if it's a prove-it deal and teams aren't giving him the money because they don't trust his health, then sure, I'd love to bring him in if it's something that's a little bit cheaper. But if it's talking about paying him like a top-end guard with that injury history, then no, I don't want to do that. I would be very, very worried about that, as these guys that do tend to get nicked up every year kind of cats, they tend to always be kind of nicked up every year kind of cats. Advisor said, I meant before grades and now grades for getting D-Law. I gave it an A. Yeah, I liked it a lot in the moment, Advisor. I mean, I kind of give it an A in the moment too, and I'd give it an A now. I gave it an A in the moment because the contract was a really nice contract. 3-year deal, you weren't breaking the bank. He was bare minimum going to improve your run defense and maybe go even beyond that and what he could supply pass rush wise. He's a fit for this scheme and the power edge aspect of what this scheme likes. So it's one where it's a very smart decision on the surface and smart decision in how it's played out. And I think he's going to come back for another year next year too. Jonathan, yeah, the Niners that's a good way to put it. They have a higher gear than the Niners do, the Rams do. Yeah. Jose says, don't want to face Rams a third time. Staff carved this defense up and we barely won. Agreed. I'd prefer not to play him again if possible. 2's enough. And if he's only been live for 3 hours or so, that's cake for him. That is cake for me. Bubba, I really hope we have as much grace with Milroe as we have with Darnold in a few years. Darnold may still be your starting quarterback at that time, Bubba. Yeah, I mean, when Milroe comes out there, you're going to want him to, you're not going to expect he's going to play perfect. And when he eventually does come on the field, especially as a young player, and allow him to be able to make his mistakes and allow him to have his time to grow. I think that grace you talk about, Bubba, is just built within the fact you're giving him 2 years to prepare himself. You're not doing to Milroe what every other team in every other situation with a young talented quarterback is doing, which is thrusting him on the football field as fast as humanly possible. You're giving him that time that no other quarterbacks get. So I think that's going to be also in a position of being, it's not as much of an unfair point then at that time. If now 3 years down the line, we put him out there to start, he's had those years to sit down and learn and grow. And then you run into a lot of mistakes. I don't know if that's going to be as much of, there's a lot of room for the grace there at that period because he got that time to rest. He got that time to sit and learn. And most quarterbacks, including Sam Darnold, didn't get that opportunity when they burst onto the league, For me, I have the Bears winning. They have a run game that's a problem for the Niners, and their defense might not be great, but there's an opportunistic defense that takes the ball away and causes a lot of fumbles. So I like it. I could see it happening that way. Yeah, Maxwell, Niners haven't played anyone good really recently. Vegas, you think the Eagles will give more trouble to the Rams than the Panthers? Yeah, Vegas, because I think that the Eagles aren't a good matchup for the Rams. They first have Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. So first, the Rams want to lead with their outside receivers kind of first and foremost, in my opinion. They've got a guy in Cooper DeJean that can man up and shut down a guy like Puka Nacua, or at least keep him contained. And then in Quinyon Mitchell, you have a good cover man there against Devontae. I think offensively, the mobile quarterback, the dedication to run the ball from the Eagles' perspective makes them a tough pickle. And it's also the proof in this is the pudding, Vegas, being that the last 2 years, the Rams have lost to the Eagles 3 times. One of those games being at home. So it hasn't been all just on the road either. And so, I think they got their number. It's not a good matchup for them. Gordon should be back. Hopefully so. Hopefully so. They've been a little bit weird with it on timing there with that. Visor, I feel D-Law will try if we win the Super Bowl, then take jabs on Jerry Jones. Probably. I could see that too. Yeah, I think definitely if it's a Super Bowl, that'd be probably the thing where it's like, I'm good. I mission accomplished a little bit from his perspective. Yeah. Bubba says, great point, brother. Merry Christmas. Hey, Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank you, Bubba. I appreciate it. And look, I'm not, you know me with Milroe. I wasn't the biggest on him with the pick, but I will totally acknowledge that I'm happy to give him the 2 years to let him have that time to not force him on the field, give him the chance to develop, let him really work in the background back there and completely be patient and not be sitting there going, well, let's see what we got. I'm okay with that. Because I think there's too little of that in the sport right now. Too little patience, these quarterbacks, too little of giving them the time to really allow them to do what, you hope they can do. He may stay another year or two. You got to figure DeMarcus Lawrence has had a lot of fun this year. And the team's done a good job of controlling his snap counts, not making him eat too many snaps, all that good stuff, So Vegas Hawker says, nice, good points. Thank you. Appreciate you, Vegas Hawker, on that. Very kind of you. Well, we've reached about 3.5 hours here, so we will go ahead and put a bit of a button on this one. I'm going to go get some dinner and hang out with the fam a little bit here on Christmas Eve. Hopefully y'all are able to go out there and do the same. If you guys can do me this favor today, hit that like button for me. It helps this channel show out on other fans' algorithms on YouTube searches and gets people to be able to locate this channel. It's not always as easy to find these channels in the way that YouTube can kind of sometimes bury things. But please do hit that like button. Please do get subbed up as well. We crossed 21,000 subscribers, so now we're 1/10 of the way to that next goal being 30,000 subscribers. Want to get there as soon as we possibly can. It'll be a big helpful boon to this channel to go and arrive there. So please do as well. Sub on up. If you guys didn't get a chance, go back and check out that NFC West Roundtable episode from yesterday evening. Me and Jake went at it, a Rams fan. It was very, I think, entertaining. People seemed to like it quite a bit. I think we had as many views on that video as just about any video we've done from a live stream show. So fans seem to like it a lot. We had about 120 donations in the channel last night. But go check out, get subbed up over there, the NFC West Roundtable as well, as that thing is cooking and motoring. And hopefully next year we're going to get to a point of having 2 shows a week. That's going to be the ideal if we can talk the Roundtable sports on into it. I want to thank again all of the folks that with all the big donations. Janet with the $50 donation, Chad with 2 $20 donation drops, Hand Grenade, Taker in there, True to That Blue, Ski Nation, me with a $200 drop, Space with a $50 drop, Senior Tiny Baby Goats, Matthew, Brent, Yoendo with multiple donos, Still Dreaming with multiple donos in there, Lucky, Luker with a couple donos as well, Ram fan in the house on this, Dogzilla, Brian Myers, and of course, Mark with the $100 donation. You guys, as always, unbelievably, amazingly supportive of this channel. Thank you guys for that support. It puts a smile on my face every day I get to wake up because I get to just think about Seahawks and what kind of content I could think about, what I want to talk about with you guys on these live stream shows. And it is a tremendous honor and pleasure every single time to be able to chop it up with you guys and just get into it. And so thank you to that. Thank you to all the fans that came out from other teams out there, be it Carolina fans, be it the Rams fans, be it 49er fans came in the chat today. As you always are, usually very respectful and kind, and just come in and just usually want to have good discussion. Even if there's a little bit of trash talk, it's respectful trash talk. And that's the kind of trash talk I can absolutely respect. Hand Grenade, you have a good one. Merry Christmas to you. Oli Sasquatch, Merry Christmas. Go Hawks out there to you too. Space, you are the man. Merry Christmas, man. Appreciate you. Janet, thank you so much for that big old dono. Merry Christmas. Really appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great Christmas, Josh family. Wait, you have a whole nother family on the side? Well, I do have a family, that's for sure, near at hand. Space is laughing out loud. I rewatched the stream of the Rams game. Good stuff. Laughing out loud. That was an emotional that was an emotional roller coaster, that game Space, but that's the fun of doing those live streams on game days that, privately I'd be going at that without any cameras before. Now you got to get to see me go through those emotions in the moment. And I'm like you guys, fans to it. I'm a slave to those emotions in the middle of the game, and the good, the bad, the ups, the downs. It's the beauty of the sport, isn't it? Beauty of the sport. He says, Brando for life. Go Hawks. Thank you, D Nugget. Appreciate you. Craig, happy holidays from St. Lawrence Islands, Gamble, Alaska. Well, shout out to you, Craig. Happy holidays to you too as well at St. Lawrence Island out there in Alaska. Stay warm out there in the middle of the winter, my man. Appreciate you. And thank you for so much for watching. Vegas Hawker, Merry Christmas to you, man. Appreciate you for that. Feed me, Merry Christmas. Hope you have a good one, Brian. You as well. We will be back in a couple days here, to enjoy the holidays on through, but we will be back here soon on Sunday here with the play-by-play action. Chop this up. See if the Seattle Seahawks team can cap off what has been an unbelievable season. A year where they are ahead of the schedule. A year where everyone said, even including Vegas, that's 7 wins, 4th place in the division. And yet right now you have your sights set on the potentiality of the number 1 seed, that first round bye, that home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs. Right there for the taking, no longer a pipe dream, no longer a far-flung vision of the future, but right there on our doorstep, right beyond the edge. Can we grab it? Can we take it? We shall see in these next 2 weeks, but it's going to be so much fun to watch. Thank you to this year for riding with me. Thank you for all of your support. Thanks for hitting that like button. Thank you for subbing on up. But beyond all else, don't you ever forget. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Go Hawks.